Chapter 1032. Little Silver and Loopy Toad believed that anyone who saw these 8 questions of the soul would ponder deeply about their own lives. As far as Little Silver was concerned, he actually felt that this question was quite up to date with the times. Ever since the pilot project in Songhai City had started in the last few months, the entire city's citizens had been busy sorting out garbage. Bastard, you still want to find me? They might even seize your spirit sword on the spot and make you help pick up rubbish in the city. You'd only be done after picking up 5 kilograms of rubbish. Therefore, if you saw a person carrying a black sack in the middle of the night, acting suspiciously, this person might not be a thief, but someone who came out to throw rubbish. If you don't throw the garbage at this time, there will be a row of garbage sorting aunties standing in front of the garbage room in the morning waiting for you with a smile on their faces. They will ask you, "What kind of garbage are you? Thank you for your cooperation." Little Silver successfully exchanged Chinese test papers with student Shen Guangrong from number 59 high school. Student Shen was overjoyed. "Can I change my other homework too?" Little Silver glanced at student Shen. "Do the rest yourself. Didn't your mother teach you not to be opportunistic and take advantage of the situation?" Student Shen. "Little Silver, how can you improve without doing homework? If you don't improve, how are you going to get into a good university? If you don't get into a good university, how are you going to reach the pinnacle of your life? How are you going to marry a rich and beautiful woman?" Then student Shen fell into deep thought again. In any case, he had already gotten what he wanted, so Little Silver didn't think he was going overboard. Being opportunistic was wrong in itself. Dog 2 found a secluded spot at the entrance of the little shop in the park and drew up a transmission array. The specific coordinates were Headmaster Chen's office. After receiving the homework, they wouldn't choose to take it with them, because doing so might attract the attention of the number 60 high teachers who were hiding nearby. Thus, Little Silver and Loopy Toad had already come up with a plan. They would send one back whenever they collected a book. In any case, the magic array used for item transmission wasn't complicated. They just needed to know the coordinates. Loopy Toad stretched out its dog paw and injected spirit energy into its nail. It then drew a fairly smooth circle in the dirt, and then directly used its nail to carve words into the circle. As everyone knew, the hardest part of drawing an array was not carving out words, but drawing circles. If the circle wasn't perfectly drawn, the formation wouldn't be able to activate properly. Therefore, drawing circles was a basic lesson for array masters. It tested the stability of one's hand. Whether an array master was strong or not could be seen from the stage of drawing circles. Powerful array masters have many ways to draw circles. Not only can they draw circles, but they can also draw them quickly. The Sky-Swallowing Toad clan was one of the few powerful Demon King clans in the demon world known for their support of phantons. Arrays were actually one of the compulsory subjects for the Sky-Swallowing Toad clan. Hence, Loopy Toad was in fact already very skilled at drawing magic arrays. The whole process took less than 2 minutes. Loopy Toad then put the language test paper into the magic array. It recited a spell and formed a seal with its paw. In a flash of golden light, the language test paper was accurately teleported to Headmaster Chen's office. Loopy Toad then dug up the dirt on the side to cover up the magic array. After confirming that there was nothing wrong, it turned its head and said to Little Silver, "Let's go to the next house." At noon, Loopy Toad took Little Silver to the vicinity of a university. At the school gate, several courier little brothers were fretting. They were in a hurry to make their next order, but they couldn't get in touch with the school's recipient for a long time. Little Silver moved closer to take a look, and saw clearly that the school's stone tablet said, "Songhai Magic Treasure Development University." So this is it. Little Silver sighed. "What's wrong?" asked Loopy Toad. "It's the university I told you about yesterday that the serial killer is targeting," Little Silver replied in a low voice. Loopy Toad nodded and instantly understood. Because the killer had committed the crime through a screen, the convenient delivery function of the entire school had been cut off to ensure the safety of the students while the killer hadn't been apprehended. If the students wanted to receive their packages, they could only follow the old method of having the courier place the packages at the school gate at noon and wait for people to pick them up. Of course, The most troublesome thing was that these packages didn't have real names. For the sake of privacy and safety, some students used their own netizens. As Little Silver and Loopy Toad drew closer, they saw several courier little brothers shouting at the school gate at the top of their lungs. "I'm the daddy you'll never get. I'm the daddy you'll never get. Hurry up and pick up your package. Crossdresser, Crossdresser, I have your package. Hurry up and pick it up. I'm leaving right now. Oniai-chan, I have your package." In a few short minutes, there were all kinds of fancy recipient names. Everyone. "Are you sure the fragment is here? This is a university." Little Silver stood at the gate and looked around, a little hesitant about whether to go in or not. He suspected that Loopy Toad had gotten the wrong location. "There's no mistaking it, it's here." Loopy Toad shook its head. It was very confident in its sense of smell. Little Silver followed Dog 2 inside. The security uncle was going to stop them at first, but when he saw the medal on Little Silver's chest, he immediately stopped. This was a custom-made medal for the team leader of the Office of Strategic Deception. As the Light Force ranked first in overall strength in Huaxiao Nation, the Office of Strategic Deception's reputation was already known throughout the country. The security uncle couldn't figure out which higher-up of the Office of Strategic Deception Little Silver was, but after recognizing the medal, he didn't stop him. Grenade-throwing Senior Immortal had given the medal to prevent Little Silver from being taken into the police station again when he was walking alone on the street. As it turned out, the medal was even more useful than Little Silver had imagined. The canteen up ahead. Loopy Toad led Little Silver forward. As they approached the canteen entrance, Little Silver's gaze focused on a university student who was riding at a tremendous speed. There was no doubt that this was a female university student from Magic Treasure Development University. Next to her seat was a thick stack of high school exercise papers. "What are you doing?" Loopy Toad was blank at this scene. A university student doing a high school student's homework. Little Silver could only think of one possibility. He slowly walked over and stared at the long-haired girl who was riding at a tremendous speed. The girl's meal card was still on the table, and Little Silver almost immediately saw the girl's name. Lin Shuyao. "Are you helping someone else with their homework?" Little Silver asked. Lin Shuyao tucked back her long hair and raised her head to give Little Silver a lazy look. "It's 100 yuan for an ordinary subject exercise book, 200 yuan for an accurate copy of the subject exercise book, and 100 yuan for an examination paper." After saying that, Lin Shuyao took out a QR code from around her neck and put it on the table. "Scan the code to pay, and I'll get everything done today." Little Silver and Loopy Toad. Chapter 1033. It was obvious that this wasn't Lin Shuyao's first time doing this, but she was very open and frank. Ghostwriting homework was originally a job she did behind the scenes, but this girl actually didn't shy away from taking orders in the canteen at all. In fact, if it wasn't for the fact that the campus delivery service had been forced to go manual because of the serial murders this time, Lin Shuyao would have stayed in her dormitory and never come out. She took this job very seriously because the amount of orders she took each winter and summer break earned her 60 to 70 times more money than the scholarships she received at school. Not only could she pay for her own school fees, but she could also earn a lot of money by ghostwriting homework during the winter and summer breaks. Helping people with homework, both parties had to be willing to put a price on it. This wasn't against the law, and even if the police found out, they couldn't do anything about it. Under normal circumstances, there were even parents who personally came over to pay for Lin Shuyao to do homework for them because their students couldn't finish their homework. In the industry of doing homework for people during the winter and summer holidays, Lin Shuyao could be said to be the leader of this industry. As for why she was the boss, it was actually very obvious. After Lin Shuyao took out the payment QR code, she saw that Little Silver and Loopy Toad were still hesitating, so she casually put it on the table. She didn't stop working, and as she wrote, she spoke to the people behind her. "I'm busy right now, help me receive the customers." "All right." Behind him, someone immediately responded. Only then did Little Silver realize that Lin Shuyao actually needed help. Behind her, there were 10 tables full of university students who were ghostwriting homework. It turned out that this ghostwriting gang was pretty big. Little Silver was dumbfounded. This was a team that Lin Shiryao had specially hired because ordinary university students didn't have Lin Shiryao's reputation and could receive such a large number of orders, so Lin Shiryao had come up with the idea of pulling them in. On the basis of her annual work, she would receive an additional order for the other university students to do, and she would sign a sharing agreement with those university students. She would only take 30% of the amount of the ghostwriting homework as an intermediary fee. Just like that, Lin Shiryao's team grew bigger and bigger. There were 4 people at a table in the cafeteria, and there were a total of 40 people working under Lin Shiryao. There were as many as 10 tables. Furthermore, in order to ensure the quality of the homework, Lin Shiryao had even divided up the homework. Some people were specifically responsible for the language homework, some were specifically responsible for the talismans class homework, and there were also those who were proficient in alchemy techniques and spirit sword techniques who were responsible for the extra homework. There was even an external filming team that could cosplay as the employer and specifically shoot videos to complete some extra practical extracurricular activities designated by the school. How many fragments? Little Silver gave Loopy Toad a meaningful look and asked telepathically. There are at least 6 fragments here. Loopy Toad replied. Lin Shiryao had a lot of employers, and because a lot of the work in the city was concentrated on her, Little Silver and Loopy Toad had saved a lot of trouble. There's something I hope you can help me with. Silver bent over with his hands on his knees and smiled warmly. Buttface jumped onto a chair in the canteen and sat there obediently, wagging his tail as he stared at Lin Shiryao. Miss Lin glanced at Little Silver and Loopy Toad, but she didn't stop working. Behind her, the person who had been in charge of reception saw that Little Silver had come specifically for Lin Shiryao, and quietly sat back down. Unfortunately, I'm very busy right now. If you're asking about the serial murder case, I can't tell you right now. A police officer with the surname Gao already asked me about it once, and I don't want to answer him again. Lin Shiryao was a very efficient person. Police officer with the surname Gao? Little Silver was blank. It seemed that Gao Tian had already been here, and had interrogated the school students about the murders. But that wasn't why Little Silver and Loopy Toad were here, so he patiently sat down in front of this Miss Lin. Little Silver had plenty of time to wait. There were 6 fragments here, and their workload today had originally been to collect 5. In the end, Lin Shiryao felt uncomfortable when Little Silver sat down. She was a single, decent woman from a good family. While she was ghostwriting someone's homework in broad daylight, there was actually a handsome guy sitting in front of her and staring at her as she did her homework. Lin Shiryao had never experienced this kind of thing before. Lin Shiryao could be considered a celebrity at Magic Treasure Development University. With Little Silver sitting in front of her and watching her do her homework, she actually felt that the atmosphere in the air wasn't right. Wow, who's that silver-haired young man? He's so good-looking. And he has a green furred dog? Is he Lin Shiryao's boyfriend? I always thought she was a celibate type. Damn big news. Lin Shiryao actually has a boyfriend. The above was all Lin Shiryao's fantasy. Lin Shiryao shook her head hard. She felt that if she went on like this, she would definitely have auditory hallucinations. What on earth do you want? A few minutes later, Lin Shiryao finally stopped what she was doing under Little Silver's innocent smile. The customer's quality was always number 1. With Little Silver sitting there staring at her, Lin Shiryao already felt that she couldn't carry on with her work normally. But she couldn't get angry with Little Silver. Most university girls actually liked the little puppy look, and Little Silver actually just happened to be this type. His smile was like a spring breeze, and even the shadow in her heart dissipated by more than half. When Lin Shiryao raised her head to look at Little Silver, she felt as if the person sitting in front of her was a small sun. Warm and soft but not so dazzling. She wanted to reach out and touch it, but didn't burn herself. Are you finally willing to talk to me? Little Silver continued to smile. Don't say such misleading things. If you have something to say it quickly. Lin Shiryao blushed and immediately lowered her head. Dog 2 wasn't envious of this scene. Sure enough, it was good to be good-looking. I wonder when I can take human form. Loopy Toad pondered as it stared at Little Silver's human form. It had always been worried that its human form would be very ugly. In countless dreams, it even dreamed that when it transformed into a human, its skin was green, and even its hair was green. When it walked in the night, it would even emit a fluorescent light. It was the kind of green that even the Hulk would concede defeat. Loopy Toad felt that it wouldn't be able to accept it if it was too ugly. After adapting to living in the human world, Loopy Toad actually realized that it also had the burden of being an idol, and understood the importance of good looks. This was an era where looks were everything. If you had a good-looking face, you could eliminate a lot of your worries. Chapter 1034. It was human nature to love beauty. While one's looks were something you were born with, there had always been an endless supply of magic and elixirs in the cultivation world to change one's appearance based on each person's different aesthetic needs. Cultivators didn't need to use a knife at all for cosmetic surgery, and it was very safe. Youth Retaining Pill. It can optimize your original facial features to a certain extent, improve the condition of your skin, and make you look younger. Among them, Huagua Water Curtain Group's Youth Retaining Pill was the most famous. Of course, if you wanted to completely change your appearance, you could use a face-shaping pill. Within half an hour after taking it, your face would be as malleable as plasticine. However, face-shaping pills weren't usually sold to the public. This was a hospital cosmetic department's allocation, and the doctors responsible for shaping the face had to pass a face-shaping exam and obtain the relevant qualification certificate before they could use it. The truth was that Loopy Toad wasn't worried about how ugly it would be in human form. It was worried that its hair would be very strange. There were a lot of green-haired men in cartoons, but if they were in real life, they would definitely look very strange. Of course, the fear of being ugly was not something everyone had. For example, Little Masterling was worried that he was too handsome and had forcibly pulled his appearance down to average standards. Face was something you were born with. Loopy Toad stared at Lin Shiryao. Although it had only known Lin Shiryao for a few short minutes, it could already feel the charm of this good-looking straight-A student. A group of college students doing homework for someone else taking orders in the school cafeteria with great fanfare was definitely a beautiful sight. Letting Little Silver continue to stay here would disturb her work, so Lin Shiryao listened to his request patiently. Little Silver didn't go into detail, and just told Miss Lin that for some reason, they needed to exchange some specific exercise books and test papers. Lin Shiryao took the exercise books from Little Silver's hands and stared at them. The handwriting was neat and extremely beautiful. Furthermore, Lin Shiryao had never seen the handwriting on them before. Thus, Lin Shiryao agreed to Little Silver's request. It's up to you how much you want to exchange. Then, she buried her head in her homework again. Thank you. The exchange was a success. Little Silver and Loopy Toad were pleasantly surprised to receive 6 fragments in one go. Out of the corner of her eye, Lin Shiryao sized up the 4 test papers and 2 exercise books which Little Silver had exchanged, and couldn't help feeling an itch in her heart. Brooding over the beautiful handwriting, she suddenly had an idea. She really wanted to meet the owner of such beautiful handwriting. Who wrote this homework? Lin Shiryao asked without raising her head. To be exact, Master wrote it, Little Silver replied. He was well aware that pen and eraser, these 2 gremlins, were merely acting on Little Masterling's will. While they would help Little Masterling with his homework, there were also rigid rules. 1. The homework must be questions that he has already completely mastered. 2. The 2 gremlins, eraser and pen, are unable to help with emotional expression topics such as essays. Apart from these 2 hardcore conditions, the rest were up to Wang Ling. He could even set the handwriting on the exercise books. Most of the exercise books were in square and regular script, but because some of the questions were emotional expressions, Wang Ling had to write them himself since pen and eraser couldn't work together. Although there weren't many questions, it was Wang Ling's handwriting that deeply captured Lin Shiryao's attention. 1 Silver and 1 Dog could see through Miss Lin's thoughts, and they couldn't help sighing in their hearts. It could only be said that Little Masterling was in the end Little Masterling. Without even going out, he could casually win over a university girl and an incomparably beautiful and abstinent female top student. It wasn't strange that they could see through Lin Shiryao's thoughts. Little Silver was a holy beast, while Loopy Toad was a quasi-holy beast. On top of that, the silver dog and the silver dog had long since comprehended the sacred heart illumination ability from their private conversations. Although this ability wasn't as powerful as Wang Ling's mind-reading ability, which could radiate infinitely far away, it could still read a person's inner thoughts at a close distance. The truth was that Loopy Toad didn't even think it needed the bright Saint Heart ability at all when it came to Lin Shuyao. This kind of young girl, who was still in puberty, could completely betray her inner thoughts with just her expression alone. I don't know what you're looking for, but it looks like the things you're looking for are probably mixed in with this group of children's high school summer vacation homework, right? Lin Shuyao cupped her chin as she tried hard to think of a possible course of action in her mind. Finally, she gritted her teeth. How about this? I'll make a deal with you. I'll increase the number of orders and help the girls collect as much homework as possible. That way, you might be able to find everything faster. So that's how it works. Little Silver pondered for a moment, but at the same time he was worried that Lin Shuyao wouldn't be able to complete the task as promised. This kind of workload was 100% excessive. You don't have to worry about me. Since I agreed to increase the number of orders, I'm fully confident. Lin Shuyao put down her pen and smiled confidently. Have you heard of the flow of two pens? Loopy Toad was blank. Of course it knew about the flow of two pens. This was the move that Dopigua used to copy homework in number 60 high school. Moreover, Dopigua had upgraded this move and introduced the flow of 5 pens to copy homework to increase the speed of copying. To tell you the truth, I'm the leader of the flow of 2 pens sect. Lin Shuyao crossed her fingers and began to formally introduce herself to Little Silver and Loopy Toad. After joining our sect, learning the flow of 2 pens is the foundation. As long as I mobilize all the disciples of our sect to use the flow of 2 pens to ghostwrite, the workload will double, Lin Shuyao said. Of course, as the leader of our sect, my highest strength isn't just the flow of 2 pens. After saying that, Lin Shuyao took out all the pens in her pencil case. She held 1 pen between her fingers, and with her 2 hands, she held 8 pens in total. F***K. Flow of 8 pens. Loopy Toad now completely believed in Lin Shuyao's identity as the founder of the Flow of 2 Pens sect. It could only be said that as the founder of the Flow of 2 Pens sect, Lin Shuyao indeed had the qualifications to take on this great responsibility. Writing homework with 8 pens. That speed was simply unimaginable. In Lin Shuyao's eyes, these high school exercises were already as easy as eating and drinking. While using the 8 pens, Lin Shuyao had already transformed into a humanoid typewriter. Like a swordsman, she put all the pens in her hands into the pencil case. Her movements were so smooth it was like an exquisite dance performance. Chapter 1035. Actually, meeting Wang Ling wasn't as complicated as one might imagine. Those who were familiar with him knew that as long as you prepared crispy noodle snacks beforehand, you could even video chat with the beloved Ling Jinren. Of course, Ling Jinren wouldn't say a word during the video chat. He would just stare at you with those adorable, round dead fish eyes of his, and thus firmly lock onto your heart. A lot of the time, if you wanted to see into a person's heart, you just needed to look into their eyes. The eyes were the windows to the soul, and Wang Ling was no exception. The truth was that his eyes were a little special because of the king's eye, and his pupils were red. But in the cultivation world, there were plenty of cases of eye colors changing because of different foundation establishment martial arts, so there wasn't anything wrong with having the wrong eye color. Of course, there were some people who deliberately wore cosmetic contact lenses in pursuit of color, which wasn't allowed at school. There was a big difference between natural eye color and cosmetic contact lenses, and the teacher in charge of the school inspection at the entrance could tell at a glance with his many years of experience. Taking a deep breath imperceptibly, Little Silver sorted out his thoughts and planned to continue discussing the next step of their collaboration with Miss Lin. He felt that Miss Lin's proposal was reasonable, but to avoid upsetting Little Master Ling, he made an additional request. He hoped that Lin Shuyao would only observe from a distance and not get too close. Lin Shuyao had no interest in this. Her original intention had just been to see what on earth the owner of this beautiful handwriting looked like to satisfy her curiosity. As for whether she could talk to him, Lin Shiryao didn't have any particular expectations to begin with. Lin Shiryao had been in love once, but after breaking up with her ex, she had completely given up on relationships and felt that she would never fall in love with anyone again. In Lin Shiryao's view, being in love was simply torture. Lin Shiryao could list out more than 100 benefits of being single. She was unfettered and unfettered. She didn't have to go through the routine of hypocritical warmth every day. She lived more authentically than anyone else. How great was that? Just like that, the deal was officially finalized. Then it's a deal. Lin Shiryao started to take deep breaths to hide the joy and anticipation in her heart. She had the assistants behind her start to increase the number of online orders. Little Silver and Loopy Toad heard the people behind them start to get very busy, and the ding-dong sound of Taobao notifications on their cell phones didn't stop ringing. Where there was demand, there would be a market. The profession of ghostwriter was just a job born out of the development of the times. Trash sorting, for example, had recently become popular. Loopy Toad believed that it wouldn't be long before a company would launch a professional garbage sorter, who would not only help sort and empty the trash, but would also be on call like a delivery boy. Loopy Toad hadn't expected Lin Shiryao's business to actually be so good. It wouldn't be an exaggeration to describe it as noisy gongs and drums, crackling firecrackers, fluttering red flags, and a sea of people. At this rate, he would definitely be able to collect all the fragments of the Jade Scroll of school history before the semester started. But at this moment, a loud boom suddenly came from outside the cafeteria, followed by many students running into the cafeteria in panic, some even screaming. "What's the situation?" Lin Shiryao stood up and grabbed a flustered boy to ask. "Big Sister Lin, I think there's an explosion in the auditorium." "Explosion? What happened?" I don't know either." The boy was also dumbfounded. "I just went out to receive a package, and then I heard a loud noise coming from the auditorium." "Did anyone get hurt?" "I don't know. But I remember that there seems to be a teacher giving a public lecture in the auditorium at this time. There are about 50 alumni in the auditorium right now." "You guys stay here, I'll go take a look," Lin Shiryao instructed the people behind her, and then she set off for the auditorium. Lin Shiryao was also the president of Magic Treasure Development University's student union. She couldn't just sit back and watch something like this happen. At the very least, she had to know the cause of the explosion in the auditorium. This incident also attracted Little Silver and Loopy Toad's attention. After some discussion, one Silver and one Dog rushed out with Lin Shiryao. Magic Treasure Development University hadn't been very peaceful recently, and it was all because of the serial killer who had yet to be brought to justice. Then could this explosion have something to do with the killer? When they got close to the auditorium, a group of university teachers had already rushed over when they heard the news. There were also some students nearby who weren't afraid of death who wanted to join in on the fun. Armed with all kinds of magic treasures, the teachers stopped the students from moving forward and dispersed the crowd, while a few teachers were already ready to step forward and rescue people. Little Silver observed the auditorium's location. It was built in a corner of the campus, and was flanked by high walls on both sides by a high-pressure barrier, so outsiders couldn't climb over the walls. There were two entrances to the auditorium, but both had already collapsed after the explosion, and bricks, tiles, and rubble had rolled down to completely cover the entrances. Seeing this, Little Silver already realized that something wasn't right. This was clearly a premeditated explosion. If it had been an accident, it was impossible for the two entrances to be blown up so coincidentally. Just then, a very unfamiliar voice came from inside the auditorium. "Teachers, please calm down. Please put away your magic treasures and step back. Otherwise I can't guarantee the safety of the 50 students and one teacher in the auditorium." An icy voice without the slightest emotion floated in the air. This was the warning that came from the auditorium's built-in broadcasting room. "Who are you?" asked one of the teachers. "It seems you've been looking for me for a long time, and used all kinds of methods to prevent me from harming the next student. But the truth is that I'm running out of patience. I feel that the students who died too easily, and should have been tortured to death. The reason why I'm holding this place hostage today is in fact the result of your Magic Treasure Development University's inaction." When the man said this, all the teachers and students broke out in a cold sweat. This was the latest serial killer. You can ask for anything. Please don't hurt the children inside. At that moment, a middle-aged man with slicked back hair and a somewhat out of shape stepped forward. This was Zhou Dongya, the headmaster of Magic Treasure Development University. Little Silver had seen some of the police investigation data on Magic Treasure Development University from Gao Tian previously, so he recognized this man at a glance. This voice, it's Headmaster Zhou Dongya's, right? The man inside sneered. I didn't want to do this, but the truth is that if I didn't make a big deal out of it, you wouldn't have taken it seriously at all. Do you remember this child, Zheng Jingxian? When the man said this, the faces of Headmaster Zhou Dongya and all the teachers present darkened. When Little Silver turned his head, he saw that Lin Shiryao had already clenched her little fists and was trembling slightly. Chapter 1036. After receiving the news from the school, Gao Tian immediately rushed in the direction of the school. In order not to agitate people, he changed into plain clothes and borrowed the chief's private car to hurry to the school. There weren't many people with him, just 3 police officers. As for the Immortal Arts mobile squad, they were already deployed in the vicinity. They were hiding nearby and wouldn't show themselves for the time being. As soon as Gao Tian gave the order, they would rush in to save the students. But such a forceful attack was ultimately just a last resort. Because this was a serial killer who had already killed several people, he absolutely wouldn't mind killing a few more. How's the situation? Gao Tian asked his assistant on the way. The school's teachers are maintaining order at the scene. By the way, Captain Gao, the suspect mentioned a person named Zheng Jingxian. Our colleagues from the intelligence department went to look into him. Take a look. The assistant handed his phone to Gao Tian. It was a detailed file on Zheng Jingxian. 3 years ago, he was a student at Magic Treasure Development University, a fresh graduate from the class of 4,393. His grades were excellent, and he had even represented the school in a magic treasure design competition. Gao Tian read the relevant information that the intelligence department had gathered from the internet. Because he was suspected of plagiarizing someone else's work in an international competition, Zheng Jingxian was permanently disqualified from the competition. As a result, his alma mater, Magic Treasure Development University, was tarnished. After discussion with the higher-ups of Magic Treasure Development University, they ordered Zheng Jingxian to publicly apologize to the entire school and the magic treasure design industry, or he would be expelled and punished. Zheng Jingxian refused to apologize, and after several fruitless attempts at communication, the school issued a disciplinary notice. When the courier delivered the notice to Zheng Jingxuan's rental apartment, he discovered that he had already committed suicide by detonating his golden core. Reading up to this point, Gao Tian rubbed his chin. So that's what happened. In fact, this incident had caused quite a ruckus back then. Gao Tian vaguely remembered that the news that year had been overwhelmingly denouncing Zheng Jingxian. The only thing missing was someone pressing his head down and forcing him to apologize. After Zheng Jingxuan's death, the incident didn't stop there. Online media outlets wrote articles about how Zheng Jingxian was so ashamed that he couldn't bear the pressure and had committed suicide to escape punishment. Then the netizens' comments on Zheng Jingxian began to change. Those who had been clamoring to bring him to justice and wanted nothing more than to hang his corpse on the pillar of shame in history began to sympathize with him, wondering if there was some inside story. But then in less than a week's time, the voices on the internet had disappeared without a trace. No matter how popular it was, it couldn't last more than 7 days. This was Gao Tian's understanding of the modern internet. I remember this case, but I only learned about it 3 years ago. I don't have the right to intervene in this matter. The final police investigation showed that Zheng Jingxian had indeed committed suicide, and a suicide note was found in his home. After identification, it was indeed Zheng Jingxuan's notes. Gao Tian sighed. He didn't expect that after so many years, he would personally come across this case. Perhaps there really was some inside story in the incident back then? Gao Tian guessed. But this was just a guess. He didn't have any proof, and he needed to find more evidence to corroborate the facts back then and restore the truth of the incident. But even if he wanted to investigate, it wouldn't be easy for Gao Tian. It had already been 3 years since the incident, and a lot of the chain of evidence from back then had been broken. Even the rental house where Zheng Jingxian had chosen to commit suicide had been turned into a chess room because no one was living in it. After Gao Tian finished reading the information, he handed the phone back to the assistant on the side, who said, "All in all, this is a student who has tarnished Magic Treasure Development University's reputation. Thus, we've initially pinpointed that the murderer in this murder and hostage case may have been Zheng Jingshuan's parents who started this case out of revenge." After a preliminary investigation, Zheng Jingshuan's parents divorced before his death because they couldn't stand the online abuse. We've already contacted his mother, who is building a relationship with a new boyfriend out of town. We've already asked a colleague out of town to verify the situation, and it should be close to the truth. As for Zheng Jingshuan's father, we're still investigating and can't completely eliminate him from the list of suspects. We have to find his father. Gao Tian nodded. Judging from this incident, Zheng Jingshuan's parents were the most likely suspects. Of course, Gao Tian couldn't completely agree with what his assistant had said. Although Zheng Jingxian was undoubtedly a pillar of shame in the magic treasure design industry, who knew what the truth was like back then? When we arrive at the scene later, don't insult classmate Zheng in such a way as to provoke the criminal. Got it? Gao Tian instructed. Yes, Captain Gao. The accompanying police officers all nodded. What are the criminal's current demands? A little lower. He wants a ransom of 3 million. He's only asking for 3 million for so many hostages. Gao Tian felt that there was something wrong with this suspect's head. But he suddenly remembered something. The prize for first place in the Magic Treasure Design competition that classmate Zheng Jingxian had participated in back then seemed to have been 3 million. Was this a hint from the criminal to them? Gao Tian felt that things were vaguely becoming interesting. This criminal really was here because of the competition back then. And perhaps he was relying on justice to expose some inside story. But as far as Gao Tian was concerned, this was very stupid. Whether or not there was a secret behind the competition back then, even if there really was an insider behind the scenes, that wasn't a reason for this criminal to kill so many people in a row. The cultivation world was now on the path of the rule of law, and since it was a country governed by the law, it naturally had to follow the heavenly Tao. The weapon used to expose inside stories was the law, not private punishment. Gao Tian would go all out to investigate what happened back then. But he would also arrest this heinous criminal who had killed so many people in a row and hand him over to the law for punishment. Second, he wants Principal Zhou Dongya of Magic Treasure Development University to release the live video of the Magic Treasure Design competition that year. But because it's been a long time, Principal Zhou says that this request can't be fulfilled for the time being. He still needs to communicate with the organizing committee and get permission before he can bring the video to the scene. But the criminal doesn't accept Principal Zhou's opinion. He wants Principal Zhou to release the video within half an hour, or else he'll have to kill a hostage every half an hour. And Gao Tian's expression turned cold. The third and final condition is that the criminal wants all cultivators above the Golden Core stage to withdraw from within a 10-kilometer radius, except for relevant school personnel. If they can't do it within half an hour, he'll blow up the auditorium. Chapter 1037. There was no doubt that this was an extremely ruthless criminal. But judging from the other party's 3 requests, it wasn't hard for Gao Tian to guess that the other party wanted to use this incident to overturn the case from back then. If they didn't make a big deal out of it, perhaps the truth of the case would forever be shrouded in dark clouds, never to see the light of day again. Thus, after some thought, Gao Tian issued his first instruction. Immediately arrange for the Immortal Arts mobile squad to retreat 10 kilometers away. Yes, Gao Tian was in command. Although the police officers behind him didn't understand why he wanted them to retreat, they could only obey. In fact, 3 minutes ago, the Immortal Arts mobile squad had already come up with a plan to kill the criminal. They would use long-range flying swords and heat-sensing magic treasures to aim at the location of the criminal in the auditorium and kill him with one strike. Even in this situation, the success rate of this method was as high as 80%. As long as they took down the criminal, everything else would be easy to deal with. But it was clear that Gao Tian's goal wasn't just to arrest the criminal. Logically speaking, they could indeed use long-range sniping to kill a criminal who had taken hostages, but the current success rate wasn't 100%. If they failed and angered the criminal, all the students in the auditorium would be out of luck. And another very important point was the criminal's methods. Before this, the criminal had killed people through a network screen many times. Such a strange method proved that the other party's realm was high, and he definitely wasn't an ordinary person. Because of this, they had to be even more cautious. If the other party realized that they were fooling the other party, there might be unpredictable risks. When Gao Tian arrived at the scene, it was still in pretty good order. He handed the storage bag he had brought from the police station to Principal Zhou. There was a total of 3 million yuan in cash inside. After receiving the prisoner's request, Gao Tian immediately ordered the nearby banks to cooperate with him and collected the 3 million yuan as soon as possible. The other party's goal was just to get a plan, and the cash extortion was just a formality. Thus, Gao Tian estimated that the risk of the bank losing 3 million yuan was very small. Of course, even if they did lose money in the end, it would be the insurance company who would pay for it. After entering the cordon, Gao Tian suddenly noticed that Little Silver and the green-furred dog he had seen before were also inside, and he was startled. "Why are you here?" The police officers and teachers on the side were also very helpless. They had already evacuated according to Gao Tian's instructions, and didn't leave anyone at the Golden Core stage or above. But Little Silver was from the Office of Strategic Deception and needed a team leader, and they couldn't order him around at all. "I was just passing by for a bit, and then I just happened to see the commotion," Little Silver said, then whispered to Gao Tian, "Don't worry, the green-furred and I have concealed our auras. They won't be able to tell." Gao Tian. The truth was that Little Silver wasn't worried at all that this murderer would care about it. The other party had asked those at the Golden Core stage and above to evacuate. But Little Silver and Loopy Toad were holy beasts, and he was a quasi-holy beast. The ones retreating were humans. What did that have to do with the holy beasts? Principal Zhou Dongye heaved a sigh of relief at Gao Tian's appearance, but the situation in front of him was still extremely tense. "Can you send the video over in half an hour?" Gao Tian asked. Principal Zhou Dongye was taken aback. He nodded as cold sweat trickled down his forehead. "It should be possible." "Principal Zhou, I need a definite answer." "Sure." After Principal Zhou Dongye finished speaking, Gao Tian's gaze turned to the small auditorium inside. "Sir, have you heard Principal Zhou Dongye's words clearly? Now why don't we talk about the purpose of your actions?" For a very long time, there was no reply from the person inside. Then, in the next moment, a picture was publicly projected on the LCD screen outside the auditorium. It was a blueprint for a magic treasure, a pill furnace. The entire cauldron was greenish-gray in color, and its surface was decorated with jade and silver beads. The bottom of the cauldron was designed with spiral legs, and each spiral leg had 128 vents that were invisible to the naked eye, which could minimize the internal pressure produced during the refining process. Finally, a circular exhaust system was embedded at the bottom of the pill furnace, reflecting the outstanding concept of environmental protection. This was the winner of the Magic Treasure Design competition 3 years ago, and the author in the lower right corner was a person called Raven. In fact, Raven didn't represent a person, but the code name of a famous studio. The person who had founded Raven Studio back then was Fu Fuxing, who had graduated from Magic Treasure Development University, and was in the same class as Zheng Jingxian. The signature in the lower right corner of this spiral jade furnace design blueprint was the name that classmate Fu Fuxing had signed to promote the studio after winning the competition back then. "Fu Fuxing," Gao Tian murmured. "Fu Fuxing, who is this?" Little Silver asked. "The creator of Raven Studio, a famous magic treasure design studio in the industry." Classmate Fu Fuxing, who graduated back then, was in the same class as classmate Zheng Jingxian, and they were both outstanding talents in the same class, said Gao Tian. So, when classmate Zheng Jingxian was exposed for plagiarism back then, Fu Fuxing was the victim? That's right. Gao Tian nodded. It was classmate Fu who first raised doubts in public, and in the end, all the media joined in the crusade against the plagiarist, which ultimately led to the tragedy. When Gao Tian said this, Headmaster Zhou Dongya's face grew uglier. After some thought he said, Captain Gao, you should be here to think of a way to save my student, not to look through old files. The school and society have long concluded that classmate Zheng Jingxian plagiarized, and with both witnesses and material evidence, this is already an irreversible case. If we bring up old events again, we'll just be hurting classmate Zheng's family again. I'm afraid classmate Zheng won't be able to rest in peace in heaven. Then, is the truth really as Headmaster Zhou Dongya says? What do you mean, Captain Gao? Headmaster Zhou's face darkened. Gao Tian snorted softly and said to the person inside, Mr. Zheng, I know what your goal is. But now that it's come to this, I hope you won't make any more mistakes. You must have done a lot of research over the years, right? You might as well take this opportunity to tell us all the suspicious points you've uncovered. Everyone here is a witness. As soon as Gao Tian said this, the person inside fell into a long silence. Mr. Zheng? Zhou Dongya's expression changed when he heard Gao Tian's name. He hadn't expected the person inside to actually be Zheng Jingshuan's father. Captain Gao, you're a capable person to actually be able to guess my identity. The man inside sighed. How did you know the identity of the person inside? Little Silver asked in a low voice. Gao Tian also whispered in Little Silver's ear. I just casually tricked him. I didn't expect him to jump out, Little Silver. Zheng Tianqiang, classmate Zheng Jingshuan's father, was the culprit behind this hostage case and the serial murders. But what new evidence would Father Zheng produce when the irrefutable facts from back then were already irrefutable? Many of the teachers had doubts in their hearts. After a few minutes, Papa Zheng asked another question in the small auditorium. Next, I'd like to ask someone a question. Who? Gao Tian asked. Classmate Lin Shiyao should be here. Please ask her to step forward and answer my first question. Chapter 1038. Before this, Gao Tian had brought people to interrogate Lin Shiyao about the situation, but he didn't expect Lin Shiyao to have some kind of connection with this case. He gave his assistant a look, and the assistant hurriedly ran down to contact his colleagues in the intelligence department to search for information on Lin Shiyao. Lin Shiyao clenched her fists. She looked unusually nervous after Zheng Tianqiang's question, and even her breathing grew heavier. Under the gazes of the surrounding teachers and nosy students, Lin Shiyao slowly walked forward with Gao Tian's help. Classmate Lin Shiyao, do you know why I called you out? Father Zheng lowered his voice as much as he could to keep it as gentle as possible. In fact, whether it was Little Silver, Loopy Toad or Gao Tian, they could all feel the uncontrollable tremor in Father Zheng's throat. It was as if he had been waiting for this for a long time. Naturally, Father Zheng was extremely agitated, but he restrained himself and did his best to maintain the emotions in his heart so that they wouldn't explode. A person was at their weakest when they were venting their emotions, so Father Zheng could only endure it. He didn't want anyone else to find any opportunity before the truth of the matter came to light. Lin Shiyao was clearly hesitant about Father Zheng's question. She had been obsessed with her studies for the last few years in order to avoid the matter between her and Zheng Jingxian. She had been living on tenterhooks, and had never expected the day the truth would come to light so soon. Classmate Lin, you can refuse to answer this criminal's question. Headmaster Zhou Dongya stepped forward again. Principal Zhou, if you interfere with this matter again, I will issue an arrest warrant for you and arrest you for the crime of disrupting order. Gao Tian glanced at Principal Zhou. Principal Zhou's face darkened, and he stepped back. Lin Shiyao could be considered a celebrity at Magic Treasure Development University. To think that such a beautiful president of the student union with excellent academic results was actually connected to the school disgrace from 3 years ago. This made all the teachers and students present curious. After a moment of silence, Lin Shiyao finally seemed to pluck up her courage and raised her head. Yes, Zheng Jingxian, he's my ex-boyfriend. Gao Tian wasn't surprised by this answer, but it startled all the teachers and students present. Father Zheng, can you tell me when you broke up? Lin Shiyao said. After the magic treasure design competition, Jingxian broke up with me. Very good. Student Lin Shiyao's words are very honest. At least until now you haven't lied to me. Father Zheng nodded. Then, Student Lin usually has the habit of imitating beautiful handwriting. Lin Shiyao's eyes were already red. Yes, this is my hobby, Father Zheng. Next, Lin Shiyao, please answer my last question. Jingshuan's will was written by you, Lin Shiyao. What? All the teachers and students present were stunned. Student Lin, why didn't you say so back then? Principal Zhou Dongye's voice also trembled. Lin Shiyao's heart was on the verge of collapse. She said while crying. After the plagiarism incident in the competition was exposed, Jingxian suffered retaliation. His arms were broken. Then he came to me and asked me to write a letter of apology for him. I didn't expect that this letter of apology would become his will. Very good. Father Zheng was very satisfied with Lin Shiyao's answer. He had already investigated these facts a long time ago. Now that he had Lin Shiyao say it herself, it was only to prove it in front of everyone. Classmate Lin, I will remember your feelings for Jingxian. Thank you. Zheng Tianqiang, what the hell do you want? Principal Zhou roared. Principal Zhou Dongye, don't be anxious. The next question is for you. I also hope you can answer truthfully. If you answer a single question incorrectly, I can't guarantee the safety of the hostages here. The corners of Principal Zhou's mouth twitched. He was the principal of a cultivation institution of higher learning, and no one had ever dared to argue with him in this school. Gao Tian gazed at Principal Zhou's gloomy face. In his academic career, Principal Zhou had always believed in not competing. He was a very cautious person in his daily life. After the magic treasure design plagiarism incident 3 years ago, Principal Zhou was the first person to stand up and apologize to the public on Zheng Jingshuan's behalf. It was precisely because of this that Principal Zhou Dongye hadn't been affected by the incident back then, and had instead gained the image of an impartial and good principal. But since you've caused such a ruckus today, Gao Tian knew very well that the truth behind it wasn't as simple as it seemed back then. Father Zheng sneered on the broadcast and asked, Principal Zhou, let me ask you. After the incident, did you personally verify it? The cultivation police will investigate and verify it. I don't have the right to interfere. Very good, I understand what you mean, Principal Zhou. Father Zheng was silent for a moment before he continued. Does that mean you didn't even watch the video of the competition in its entirety, Principal Zhou? The police have already publicized all the evidence. What difference does it make whether I check it or not? It's just a waste of time. Since Principal Zhou didn't personally intervene in every matter, and just because of the condemnation of the public, you pushed an outstanding student into the public eye and forced him to apologize for something he didn't do. May I ask, Principal Zhou, is this what a principal should do? Principal Zhou, you don't have to be in a hurry to refute me. I have sufficient evidence to prove Jingshuan's innocence. At this point, Father Zheng controlled the LCD screen in the school square to show a chart of the relationship between the legal representatives of a company. This was the behind-the-scenes legal representative, and the main staff of the famous magic weapon design studio, Raven Studio. Among them, Papa Zheng highlighted a person named Lu Yi. Principal Zhou, do you still recognize this name? Lu Yi, this is my disciple. What's wrong? Is there a problem with Lu Yi? Of course, Principal Zhou's disciple is amazing. Back then, Lu Yi was also a gold medalist at Magic Treasure Development University. As early as his sophomore year, Principal Zhou had taken a fancy to student Lu Yi's talent, and took him in as a closed-door disciple. Later, Fu Fuxing appeared and gave Lu Yi the idea of forming a studio and working together to build a brand. Thus, student Lu recruited people from all over the school, and took in all kinds of magic treasure design talents. Student Fu Fuxing and my son Zheng Jingxian both received invitations from student Lu Yi. Father Zheng unhurriedly told the story. Student Lu made a name for himself, and established Raven Studio. Later, after recruiting student Fu, he pushed him to the position of CEO of the studio, while he himself retreated behind the scenes to take on the role of legal representative and company PR. Principal Zhou, don't you think it's strange? What on earth are you trying to say? Principal Zhou gritted his teeth. What I want to say is actually very simple, Zheng Tianqiang said coldly. I want to say that student Lu Yi actually doesn't have any real ability. All the magic treasure designs he made in university, including the designs he submitted to the competition, were all based on my son Zheng Jingshuan's high school work, including that plagiarism case 3 years ago. Tianjin. Chapter 1039. Zheng Tianqiang's words caused an uproar among the teachers and students. The truth was that there were far more shady dealings in the design industry than this. Perhaps this was just the tip of the iceberg, but because of the irrefutable evidence from 3 years ago, no one dared imagine what kind of impact this iron-faced principal of Magic Treasure Development University would have if this case had been successful. Therefore, most people were like Principal Zhou Dongya. Most of them didn't believe it. It had been 3 years since the incident, and Raven Studio was no longer the small studio it used to be. Raven Studio now enjoyed a global reputation and was about to go public. If this scandal was exposed at this time, it was likely that they would never be able to make a comeback. Father Zheng, since you say that, what evidence do you have? A university teacher stepped forward of his own accord. Zheng Tianqiang's lips curled up. He had been waiting for this for so long. Things had already come to this point, and it went without saying how important the truth was. What Zheng Tianqiang wanted to do at the very beginning was to draw attention to this incident with his actions. But there was one thing. Zheng Tianqiang didn't kill anyone. When Zheng Tianqiang arrived at the scene, he discovered that the dead students had already been murdered. The dead alchemist was the witness who had exposed the plagiarism case back then. Although Father Zheng hadn't obtained direct evidence yet, this coder was the person who had led public opinion online back then. Without knowing the truth, this student, who was an alumnus of the same year, had spread all kinds of rumors online as a bystander. In the end, he had blamed the online violence on Zheng Jingxian. As for the female live streamer, she was student Fu Fuxing's ex-girlfriend in university. These 3 people were crucial witnesses, but they were all dead by the time Father Zheng arrived. Of course, the most unlucky person was still student Shen Guangrong. When the suspect had been attacking student Shen Guangrong, Father Zheng had used his strength to lend a helping hand from the screen and stop the murderer. Father Zheng speculated that student Shen Guangrong was very likely a random target the murderer had chosen to mislead the public. That way, the police might not be able to link this case to the Magic Treasure Design plagiarism case from 3 years ago. Father Zheng actually already had an idea who the culprit was. Father Zheng vaguely sensed that there was an insurmountable abyss waiting for him ahead. He didn't know what he would face if he continued to investigate further. But Father Zheng was well aware that he was a father. Since he was a father, he had to do what he was supposed to do, redress his son's grievances. When Father Zheng walked out of the broadcasting room, the students in the auditorium, as well as the teacher who had given the lecture earlier, had already calmed down from the initial panic. So far, everything Father Zheng had done really made it impossible to associate him with this vicious serial killer. Most of them were just observing. During their public lecture in the auditorium, a shadow suddenly jumped out of the big screen and finally materialized into Father Zheng in front of them. Father Zheng was very strong. The moment he appeared, everyone in the auditorium was bound by the power of this shadow and couldn't move. Then, Father Zheng got the female teacher to cooperate with him and take away all the students' phones. He also activated the barrier inside the auditorium to block any possibility of telepathic magic informants. Then the scene before them happened. Father Zheng slowly walked out of the broadcasting room. He walked up to the dais, stood at attention, and bowed deeply to everyone. Teacher and fellow students, I'm sorry to have startled you. Please stay with me for a while longer to do what a father should do. Father Zheng bowed again. The students and teachers in the auditorium were unusually cooperative. They were new students this year, and although they had heard about the plagiarism case back then, they hadn't personally experienced it. At that time, they had been so busy with the college entrance examination that they hadn't had time to care about the comments online. This was also the reason why Father Zheng had chosen to kidnap this batch of students. They were a relatively neutral party, and their opinions on this matter were more from the perspective of the onlookers. On the other hand, Father Zheng also needed direct witnesses. The witnesses he had been looking for had all been eliminated. Since there was no longer any testimony from back then, Father Zheng had to find a new batch of witnesses. Now that things have come to this, are you still hiding? I still have a lot of evidence on hand. If I play it all, you'll probably spend the rest of your life in prison, won't you? Father Zheng stood with his hands behind his back. He was dressed in pitch-black ancient clothes, and when he released his aura, it fluttered even though there was no wind, naturally giving off the air of a master. After the plagiarism case, Father Zheng had been looking for evidence all this time. It had been an extremely difficult process, and the person behind the scenes was wearing down all the evidence bit by bit. The results of Father Zheng's years of painstaking work had already been released just now. If the witnesses were gone, he would create new ones. If the evidence was gone, he would create new ones. As Father Zheng said this, he could already sense that the person he was looking for had already arrived in the auditorium without anyone knowing. This kind of silent infiltration method was also the main method of the serial murders in the apartment. Student Louis, you should be coming out now, right? Louis? Senior Louis is here? Everyone in the auditorium was astonished. This speech was also clearly heard by all the teachers and students in the school, including the police, through the public broadcast button in the broadcasting room. It's impossible for Louis to kill anyone. He doesn't have that kind of ability. Zheng Tianxiang, don't make irresponsible accusations. Principal Zhou Dongya stood up with an extremely agitated expression. Principal Zhou, what proof do you have? Gao Tian looked askance at him. Louis, it's impossible for him to commit a crime. That's because his golden core was completely removed the year he entered university, because of a myoma. That is to say, it's impossible for him to cast any spells. Even his strength is much weaker than that of a normal cultivator. The 3 dead students were all at the golden core stage, and Louis couldn't beat them at all. So he can't be the murderer. Principal Zhou Dongya said agitatedly. Is he not the murderer just because he can't use spirit energy? Father Zheng laughed. Principal Zhou Dongya, it's really sad that you're still lying to yourself even now. Even if you can't use spirit energy, as long as you have a powerful enough rechargeable magic treasure, you can still commit murder. In my son Jingshuan's high school work, there was a design for a magic treasure that could move between screens and kill people without leaving a trace. Student Louis stole this design and developed it. I want to ask Student Louis, after stealing so many of my son's designs, have you paid the copyright fee? Chapter 1040. Father Zheng's question was loud and clear. No one thought that the magic treasure plagiarism case that had rocked the whole country 3 years ago would actually see the light of day again under such circumstances. Father Zheng had hijacked a university student in a small auditorium, and this case had attracted even more attention through a live online broadcast. The cultivation police wanted to block the news, but it was already too late. Relying on his own power, Daoist Guang had spread the news all over the world, and it had become a matter that the whole world was paying attention to. As the big brother of the live streaming platform, Daoist Guang now had a huge number of light chasers behind him. Of course, apart from Wang Ling's secret greeting, the reason why Daoist Guang had chosen to live stream this incident was that he wanted to use this incident to let more people know the truth of the case and reflect on it. Student Zheng Jingxian couldn't stand the strange gazes, and died in humiliation amidst everyone's curses. He had chosen to commit suicide to defend his last bit of dignity. If you haven't experienced it yourself, please don't judge anyone or anything lightly, Daoist Guang said to his audience in the live stream room. What had really killed student Zheng Jingxian wasn't the plagiarism case itself, but the human nature reflected in it. It could be said that the netizens who had gone with the flow without any thought or investigation had pushed student Zheng Jingxian into the true abyss. After Father Zheng revealed the possibility that Louis had committed the crime, the auditorium fell silent. Louis still hadn't shown himself, but Father Zheng knew very well that he was here. He was lurking in the dark as he pondered his next move. All these years, Louis had retreated behind the scenes and used stolen works to package himself as a genius in the eyes of the world. If he impulsively stepped forward at a time like this, with such a high reputation and achievements, everything would be over. Father Zheng was waiting for Louis to come forward and admit his mistake. But it was very clear that this person, who had been blinded by his reputation, wouldn't show himself so easily. I know, student Louis, you're already here. Even if you don't want to admit it, what I said is the truth. Father Zheng stood with his hands behind his back, his expression indifferent without the slightest hint of nervousness or panic. Father Zheng smiled bitterly. To be honest, Louis, I don't blame you. Because I won't blame a person without talent. In the past, when Jingxian was still alive, I was always against him engaging in the field of magic treasure design. The waters of this field are too deep, and I was worried that he would fall into it sooner or later. But your appearance, Louis, at least proves that Jingxian is a genius, right? Father Zheng looked up at the ceiling and sighed. After the plagiarism case, Jingxian talked to me. He talked about how the people around him had changed after the murder. Before the murder, he had been the center of attention at school. But after the case, he was looked down upon and criticized wherever he went. Even his best friends began to keep their distance. I don't know how the students who watched Jingxian fall into the abyss step by step and didn't lend a helping hand will feel now that you're paying attention to this case again. It was your violence and the irresponsible public opinion on the internet that completely sent Jingxian into the abyss. Everyone fell silent. Principal Zhou Dongye's expression was even uglier. Cold violence was also a form of school violence, and as principal, he couldn't shirk his responsibility. At the same time, Principal Zhou felt a little afraid. He was afraid that the truth back then would really be reversed. What's more, he never thought that his incorruptibility back then would actually harm his own student with his own hands. Principal Zhou knelt on the ground in vexation. Father Zheng's words had already broken down his psychological defenses bit by bit. But this wasn't the result Father Zheng wanted to see. Classmate Louis, I'm waiting for you right here. If you still have a little conscience, please step forward. Father Zheng stood on the podium in the small auditorium like a priest praying. He had never hoped so much for that person to step forward on his own. He was well aware that his son Zheng Jingxian was already dead, and there was no point in dwelling on death and resurrection. He just wanted an apology. At the very least, his son's soul could rest in eternal peace. After waiting for another 5 minutes, Father Zheng's expression gradually turned grave. For now, it was really too much to ask for an atrocious sinner to apologize. Whether it was a homicidal maniac who attacked an innocent female university student abroad, or a shameless pervert who attacked young children, their hearts were twisted for all sorts of reasons. They rationalized their repulsive actions as self-consolation, shamelessly believing that this was what the world owed them. It was precisely because of this that they had never truly regretted their actions. In the depths of their hearts, they believed that this was nothing more than a form of compensation from the heavens. Father Zheng had always felt that when this sort of scum of society was exposed in the news, their faces shouldn't be censored. Instead, their ugly deeds should be exposed to the light of day, so that the world could clearly see their twisted faces. Father Zheng's original intention was to expose the truth of the matter. He didn't want to hurt anyone, not even Louis. What he needed was for Louis to repent and turn himself in. But now, it seemed that it would be very difficult to expose the truth of the matter if he didn't use some special methods to bring Louis to justice. Elsewhere, Gao Tian had already ordered the intelligence team to obtain all the latest information on Father Zheng. A lot of the information actually hadn't been updated and was old. That was because Father Zheng had disappeared after Zheng Jingshuan's death, and had lost contact with his family for a time. He had been listed as a missing person as early as 2 years ago. But for Gao Tian, this was still helpful. At the very least, he could gain a more comprehensive understanding of Father Zheng. What's new? Little Silver asked on the side. There's nothing special about it. Gao Tian checked Zheng Tianxiang's information. Father Zheng was a local resident of Songhai City, who had grown up in the city, and even studied at university there. There didn't seem to be any problems with this information, but when he read the column for realm registration, Gao Tian frowned deeply. Golden core stage? Gao Tian sensed something suspicious. Judging from his aura, Father Zheng's realm was at least at the nascent soul stage. In 3 years, if he wasn't a descendant of profound Saint Tyrannical Song, could his realm advance so quickly? Chapter 1041. Modern cultivation society didn't lack fortuitous encounters, and many cultivators could often use all kinds of fortuitous encounters to raise their realms in a short period of time. But this kind of increase wouldn't be too abnormal. Furthermore, it would often be a small increase. In the cultivation encyclopedia, this kind of small increase in realms over a short period of time had a special term, minor sublimation. But Father Zheng's situation was clearly different. To achieve this kind of major leap in realms, it usually had to be related to banned drugs or forbidden spells. How can someone advance so quickly if they don't increase their realms? It's not like they're writing. Gao Tian stared at the report and started to re-examine the matter in his heart. So far, Father Zheng hadn't harmed any of the hostages, but whether or not he had, hostage-taking had already become a crime. It was like some criminals who held a knife to a person's neck, but actually didn't dare hurt them at all. Murder was a serious crime, and these criminals didn't dare take the risk lightly. Unless they had no other choice, a hostage-taker usually wouldn't choose to hurt a hostage, as that would be too extreme. As for the police, in order to protect the hostages, they had to consider the criminals' needs as much as possible when rescuing them in order to lower their psychological defenses. But there was one exception to these conditions, and that was a special regulation the cultivation police had for kidnapping cases. Is there a problem with an abnormal increase in realms? Little Silver asked suspiciously. Actually, he didn't really understand this situation. After all, he had seen for himself how heaven-defying his master Wang Ling was. At the beginning, Master Wang Ling's realm would increase by 1 level every 2 years, but this rate of increase was now accelerating, and the intervals between realms were getting shorter and shorter. It was precisely because of this that Little Silver was well aware that his master was looking for a way to perfectly control his strength. Of course, Wang Ling's situation was actually a little different from Father Zheng's. Wang Ling was born with it, while Gao Tian had already determined that Father Zheng might have cultivated some kind of forbidden spell, or taken some banned drug. It's over. Gao Tian broke out in a cold sweat as he stared at the report. If this goes on, there's a very high chance that Father Zheng will be directly shot dead by the special regulation. Is it illegal to increase one's realm too quickly? Loopy Toad asked. It's not illegal to grow fast, but if you grow fast and take hostages, it's dangerous to make such risky moves. Gao Tian's expression gradually turned solemn as he explained to Little Silver and Loopy Toad. If there's an abnormal growth rate, there's a 95% chance that it's because of forbidden drugs or forbidden spells. The reason why forbidden drugs and forbidden techniques are included in the list of forbidden drugs is because cultivators will cause great harm to their bodies, and even their minds after cultivating. Deliberately cultivating forbidden techniques and causing harm to others is 100% criminal responsibility. In our world, even the mentally ill will be punished for their crimes. Also, if a mentally ill person breaks the law, his or her family will also be implicated. If his or her family fails to properly supervise him or her, they will also be prosecuted. Gao Tian explained the current situation. All in all, the current situation was not optimistic. Whether it was taking forbidden drugs or cultivating forbidden techniques, no one could guarantee that a cultivator's mental state could be stabilized after trying these two actions. What Gao Tian was most worried about now was that the higher-ups would notice the abnormal growth in realms in the data, and directly direct combat operations to forcefully attack and kill Father Zheng. When that happened, the situation would definitely become chaotic, and the truth of the case from 3 years ago might be drowned out in the chaos once more, until it was finally left unsettled. Whether it was the hostages being injured or Father Zheng being prevented from revealing the truth, Gao Tian didn't want to see either. Elsewhere, in the Cultivation Police Headquarters office, Chief Zhao slapped the table. Tell me, what on earth is going on now? Why hasn't the Immortal Arts Mobile Squad made a move yet? What the hell are they doing? The murderer who's taking hostages is advancing at an abnormal rate, which clearly shows that there's a problem. If the hostages are harmed because of a forbidden spell or forbidden drug, who can bear the responsibility? On the side, the police assistant wiped his sweat and comforted him. Chief, don't be angry. Most netizens are now focusing their attention on the case from 3 years ago again, because the suspect Zheng Tianxiang hasn't harmed the hostages yet. If we make a move now, it might cause public outrage. I'm sorry for my bad attitude, I apologize first. But the higher-ups are also putting a lot of pressure on us for this case. I hope we can solve it as soon as possible. Chief Xiao rubbed his brow and took a deep breath. Who's in charge of this case? It's Superintendent Gao Tian, who was recently promoted. Chief Xiao, you even signed off on it before. Oh, it's him. I remember. Chief Xiao nodded. Comrade Gao Tian has always performed well. If he's in command at the scene, I might be a little more at ease. There shouldn't be any problems. Furthermore, Team Leader Little Silver from the Office of Strategic Deception is also at the scene. Team Leader Little Silver's realm is profound, and his assistance is double insurance. The Office of Strategic Deception's team leader is also there? That's pretty stable. Hearing this, Chief Xiao instantly heaved a sigh of relief. He unhurriedly picked up the cup in front of him, blew on it a few times, and then took a big sip of tea. Oh, by the way, Chief Xiao, I just received news that Director Audiobook is on his way. Pooh. Chief Xiao spat out a mouthful of tea at the assistant in front of him. What's he doing here? I heard he's passing through the area. Director Zhua is also the team leader of the Office of Strategic Deception's supervisory team. With 2 team leaders here, it should be triple insurance. Chief Xiao. Triple insurance, my asterisk SS. Chief Xiao, you don't look too good. Do you have a problem with Director Zhua? After saying this, the assistant realized that he had said something inappropriate, and hurriedly covered his mouth. Chief Xiao glanced at the little assistant in front of him. Let me ask you, who arrested the old devil a few months ago? Director Zhua. What about the Immortal Mansion case? Director Zhua. What about the Evil Sword God case? Or Director Zhua. Ajahn, I've been in this position for quite a few years. I'm just short of a big commendation, and I might be able to move up again. This Audiobook isn't from our police station, but in the end he gets all the credit every time. Chief Xiao touched his heart, feeling very aggrieved. Then Chief Xiao means, inform the Immortal Arts mobile squad to send 1/10 of our men to keep an eye on Audiobook. Remember, after he's finished watching the scene, urge him to leave as soon as possible. Alright, Chief Xiao. Chapter 1042. Number 60 High was already in the process of being promoted to a key city high school. Although the fragments of the Jade Scroll of school history were still being collected, like all the other key city high school candidates, the general administration of 100 schools had to go through the necessary procedures, and Audiobook had to personally approve and sign it. Today, Audiobook had originally planned to visit the summer campus construction team in charge of number 60 High and several other candidate high schools. In the end, he had only been halfway there when Secretary Dakong directly called his cell phone. Little Zhuazi, there's a problem at Magic Treasure Development University. It seems that the Immortal Arts Mobile Squad has been mobilized. There's a police officer called Gao Tian handling the situation at the scene. Go over and take a look, said Secretary Dakong. Old leader, I'm busy meeting with the school construction team. Since a police officer has already gone, it doesn't matter if I go or not. Audiobook wiped at his sweat. He was mainly afraid that if he went over, he would inexplicably gain another merit after the case was closed. Chief Xiao at the police station had already been unhappy because of the old devil and the master of Immortal Mansion. So Audiobook felt that it was indeed a little inappropriate for him to interfere with the normal work of the police station. But Secretary Dakong didn't think so. Little Zhuazi, you're wrong. The general administration of 100 schools is in charge of all schools, including universities. The police station is in charge of hostage-taking, but the general administration of 100 schools is in charge of improving academic discipline. Most of the public opinion online now has a lot to say about the plagiarism case from 3 years ago. You're in charge of improving academic discipline. while the police station is in charge of rescuing the hostages. There's essentially no conflict. Ajwa. We need to strictly rectify and deal with the problems of school violence and academic fraud. I've already decided on the case from 3 years ago. I've now specially approved the documents for you to be the chief commander of the investigation. Ajwa. Already approved? I haven't received the documents yet. They should be on the way. Holding the phone in one hand, Secretary Dakong glanced at the time on the computer screen before he said to Ajwa, "Little Zhuozi, you should be in the car, right?" "Yes, Zhongleng is driving." Ajwa nodded. "Open the window," said Secretary Dakong. "All right." Ajwa obeyed. Just as he did so, a document flew directly in through the window like a hidden weapon. A courier on a flying sword greeted Ajwa in a very handsome manner. "Director Zhua, your express delivery has arrived. Remember to give me a 5-star rating." Secretary Dakong. Immortal Tong Express, mission accomplished. Very reliable. If we let them deliver the packages, we definitely won't have to worry about sending the packages to other places by mistake like the Federation Express did. Ajwa. All right, that's all I've said. We have to take care of both the school's atmosphere and the students' minds. I know that little Zhuozi has been very busy recently. You've been busy with the construction of the key high school in the city, and you've also been busy going to a few Golden Core universities to understand the situation. Things like finding 3 study partners to accompany foreign students must be dealt with seriously. Yes. Ajwa nodded solemnly. Our country has been on the road from poverty to prosperity, and we have long been used to seeing the world as equals. Many special treatments have disappeared, and more equal treatment has been born. Isn't it a pleasure to have friends coming from afar? Being neither servile nor overbearing is the best form of respect. Excerpt from People's Daily. Secretary Dakong sighed emotionally. It's not easy to correct the unhealthy atmosphere in schools, but as long as there are outstanding cadres like you, I believe that we can definitely guide these schools to establish a new style. When you're done with your work, I'll personally give you permission to take a vacation. Yes, leader. I guarantee I'll complete the task. Ajwa nodded. The old secretary's heartfelt words were well-reasoned and convincing, and Ajwa was already unable to decline the task in front of him. In fact, he had already been paying attention to the Magic Treasure Development University incident in the car, and had been planning to check it out after work was done. Little Lang, change your route to Magic Treasure Development University. The old secretary personally arranged this task, Ajwa said from the back of the car. Then what about the school construction team? We've already arranged a time. I'm going to deal with Magic Treasure Development University. I'll leave the school construction team to you. You've been working for me for so long. I believe in your abilities. Also, pay attention to the materials, and don't cut corners. If anything goes wrong, I'll hold you responsible. I have high hopes for you. Yes. I guarantee I'll complete the task. Zhongleng nodded solemnly in the same tone as when Ajwa had spoken to the old secretary earlier. And then, there was no then. When Zhongleng sent Ajwa to the scene, all the police officers present couldn't help wiping at their cold sweat when they saw him arrive. You go. I don't dare offend Director Zhua. Is this guy full? Then offending Chief Zhao is enough. Of course not. Then you go. F***K. Why should I go? Ajwa was about to find someone to understand the current situation when a deputy captain was pushed forward by the police officers. Director Zhua, this is a hostage situation. If you always come to inspect our work, we welcome you. But please don't interfere too much. What do you mean by interfere too much? Ajwa smiled. Let me ask you, where did this hostage situation take place? University. Then what kind of place does our general administration of 100 schools care about? The deputy captain. All right, I won't steal your job. Ajwa patted the deputy captain on the shoulder. Deputy Captain Liu, don't be nervous. Rescuing the hostages is your job, while my job is to investigate the case from 3 years ago. So there's essentially no conflict between our jobs. After saying that, Ajwa slapped the document signed by the old secretary on Deputy Captain Liu's chest. This is a document signed by Secretary Dakong of the Alliance of 10,000 Schools himself, requesting that I thoroughly investigate the plagiarism case from 3 years ago. If there are no objections, I don't think Chief Zhao's side will either. Deputy Captain Liu took the document with trembling hands, and all the courage he had felt when he had spoken just now was swept away in an instant. Audiobook. So what's the situation? Deputy Captain Liu. There hasn't been any movement for some time. The hostages aren't in danger for the time being, but the Immortal Arts Mobile Squad is ready to fight. Considering that the suspect's realm growth rate is abnormal, it's possible that he has taken forbidden drugs or cultivated forbidden spells, which can lead to mental instability. Then has he provided any new evidence for the case from 3 years ago? Not for the time being. Then what about Lu Yi, who was mentioned earlier? If Zheng Tianxiang is making irresponsible accusations, shouldn't he refute it? We've already sent someone to look for him, Deputy Captain Liu replied. At that moment, a police officer ran over anxiously. Deputy Captain Liu, something happened. What happened now? We found Louis. He's in his own house. Bring him here. He's already dead. He died in exactly the same way as those people in the apartment. Want to make it so that the dead can't testify? Audiobook felt that this case had become interesting. The current situation was already very clear. Apart from Father Zheng, there was a second force working hard on the case from back then. Chapter 1043. Louis had been killed at home in exactly the same manner as those Magic Treasure Development University graduates at Divine Leisure Apartments. They had all died without any obvious signs of an invasion. This person had been very skillful and killed in one blow. Whether it was in terms of strength, motive or method of invasion, combining the above 3 points, Father Zheng was undoubtedly the prime suspect. For the time being, this matter was still in the hands of the police and hadn't been made public, because it was really too strange. Almost all the key figures in the plagiarism case from 3 years ago were dead. If Father Zheng had really come purely for revenge, there was no need at all for him to specially plan and organize this hostage-taking drama to publicize what had happened 3 years ago. He just needed to kill all the targets of his revenge behind the scenes. So the current situation was very clear. This was framing. After hearing the news that Lu Yi had been killed, Gao Tian, Little Silver and Audiobook had a tacit understanding that this was the case. But they had no idea at all what this second force behind the scenes was. In the small auditorium, Father Zheng broke out in a cold sweat. He had been waiting for Lu Yi to step forward on his own. After waiting for a long time for Lu Yi to show no signs of remorse, he had been about to circulate his qi and use a spell to directly capture Lu Yi on the other end of the screen and interrogate him on the spot. In the end, when Father Zheng's spiritual senses penetrated Lu Yi's home, he saw that Lu Yi was already dead in front of his computer. His throat had been directly slit open, and blood sprayed out onto the ceiling. Drops of blood formed beads on the scarlet ceiling and dripped down incessantly. The scene was as horrifying as a horror movie. In a trance, Father Zheng withdrew his spiritual senses. Lu Yi was dead. The most important person in overturning the case had disappeared just like that. Father Zheng felt like it was a huge blow. Who on earth was it? Who could actually overturn the case several times in a row and make a move before he could? The power behind this made Father Zheng feel a little afraid. It was like a curse, as if an invisible curse power was thwarting his every move. If he couldn't overturn the case this time, after he went to jail, there might be no one who could help his son clear his name of this injustice that had been buried for 3 years. If he wanted to clarify, he had to choose this moment when the attention was the greatest. It was common knowledge that netizens, as a bystander, would usually only pay attention to an event for 7 days. No matter how big an event was, after a week of fermenting on the internet, its popularity would be suppressed by a new event. In the end, no one would pay attention to it. The truth was that Father Zheng wasn't necessarily as pessimistic as he imagined. One of the most important reasons was that Audiobook was here. And this was the additional effect of Audiobook's arrival. There was a 100% chance that the case would be successfully solved. And there was a 100% chance that the case would be completed. Father Zheng made the whole country aware of this matter. And even more people started to pay attention to the truth behind the plagiarism case from 3 years ago. Naturally, there was no lack of students among this sea of onlookers, whether it was number 60 High's class group chat or the private, Happy Study group chat. Their screens had already been flooded by the incident at Magic Treasure Development University. In the group chat, Super Chen had been depressed for the last 2 days, because he had run into Old Pan when he went out to copy homework, but the incident at Magic Treasure Development University eased his gloominess a little. Scientific research showed that when people ate melons, or in layman's terms gossiping, their brains would secrete a hormone called dopamine, which made them feel happy and happy. The effect was similar to eating candy. That was to say, gossiping and eating candy could both make people happy. As the saying went, if it didn't concern you, don't worry about it. Why were onlookers called onlookers? Because melons were sweet. And the sweet one could make people happy. I think this Senior Zheng's injustice is definitely true. Super Chen's words in the group chat were astonishing. It was fine for the others to see this, but Wang Ling couldn't help trembling in his heart. This time, he had to believe it even if he didn't want to. Super Chen's blessed mouth wasn't something he was born with, but something he had developed. After exploring Super Chen's memories the last time, Wang Ling had a whole new understanding of this monstrous mouth. The key is the witness, which is gone now. Dopigua sighed. Isn't there still Louis? This Father Zheng hijacked the entire auditorium to threaten Louis to come out. As long as Louis is willing to come out, everything will be fine. Unless Louis is dead, Super Chen continued. Wang Ling. Dopigua. He's really dead, Super Chen. What the hell? I was just saying, don't joke around. Dopigua. He's really dead. An uncle of mine at the police station told me that Louis died very miserably, and his death was exactly the same as that of the graduates from Divine Leisure Apartments. Now the police's biggest suspect is Father Zheng, because almost all the evidence and the motive point to him. Wang Ling was stupefied. Super Chen's mouth and Dopigua's uncle, these two could totally open a detective agency together. If they had been born a few decades earlier, Detective Conan probably wouldn't have been involved. AI, this is going to be difficult. Just now, I saw a lot of netizens analyze this Louis as the key figure. If Father Zheng wants to overturn the case, he'll have to rely on Louis. Whether Louis is willing to tell the truth or not, at the very least, he has to be alive. Little Peanut sent a message in the group. As for that classmate Fu Fuxing, he was completely in the dark, and was manipulated by Louis from the start. In the end, the mastermind is dead, and the current situation is that there's no evidence. Not necessarily. Super Chen suddenly said, I'm thinking of a possibility. What possibility? 3 years ago, there might have been other witnesses. Including when Louis died, there might have been other witnesses, Super Chen said. Wang Ling sent several question marks. First of all, I want to say that when I say witness, I'm not talking about people. For an apartment as old as Divine Leisure Apartments, there are bound to be cockroaches and ants, right? Maybe they were eyewitnesses to the crime and Lu Yi's death 3 years ago. Super Chen said, I know of a spell that can communicate with living beings. Dopigua should be more familiar with this than I am. Dopigua nodded and said, Indeed, a high-level pet trainer can do it. Maybe we can ask Teacher Wei Ji to help. There might really be hope. But the problem is, how do we find cockroaches and ants? You'll have to ask number 59 High School's professional pest elimination team about this. Number 59 High School's pest elimination team? Don't tell me you're talking about. That's right, it's that group of cats that appeared at number 59 High School before. With that black cat as their leader, I heard that after the Spirit Sword Exchange Conference, this black cat led the way in wiping out Shadowstream's headquarters. Since then, it has made a name for itself, and then took advantage of that momentum to start a pest elimination business, Super Chen said. Wang Ling, Dopigua and Little Peanut. Super Chen. I heard that with that black cat as their leader, their business now covers all the major districts of Songhai City. It's much easier for them to find cockroaches and ants than it is for us. Most importantly, they know how to hold back when catching things. Their employers hate cockroaches and mosquitoes to the bone. and many of them ask them to keep them alive. When they catch them, they'll be especially careful, and in the end, they'll give them to their employers to ravage. Wang Ling. Chapter 1044. As Super Chen had said, after the Spirit Sword exchange meet between number 60 High School and number 59 High School, that black cat called Zheng Tan had become the cat tyrant in that area. And the independent regiment, led by Zheng Tan, had grown from a small one to the strength of more than 10 divisions. Zheng Tan had never imagined that it would have such a rich military force. With more cats under its command, its business naturally began to grow at a rapid pace. Zheng Tan's 4 pests eradication team was already very big. At least in Songhai City, there was no longer any human company that could compete with the cat regiment led by Black Charcoal. Cats were born with innate talent for catching these nimble little things. Now Zheng Tan's 4 pests eradication team had been deployed abroad, and it had even given itself an English name, Li Zheng Tan. It couldn't be helped. If it wanted to connect with foreign countries, it had to be more westernized. Of course, this was very normal business dealings, and was fundamentally different from those schools that belittled themselves by finding study companions for international students. The overseas business wasn't as big as the domestic business, so Li Zhengtan donated all the money it earned abroad to build Hope primary schools in the country. Nowadays, even a stray cat knew the importance of equality, and the respect between living creatures should be mutual. Even a stray cat would find it a little shameful to belittle itself and flatter an outsider's stinky feet. Mr. Li Zhengtan, your team is truly conscientious and conscientious. We admire you. In that tree hole outside number 59 High School, Li Zhengtan was discussing a foreign business deal when a white cat with curly hair took the initiative to shake its paw. This was a native breed of Mishio Nation, the curly spirit fairy. It was a native civet, born with strong spiritual intelligence and strong combat ability. But because it was so good-looking, many cultivators would rather keep it at home and provide it with food and water than let it participate in battle, for fear that it would hurt them. Thus, the curly spirit fairy had gradually lost its wild nature in Mishio Nation, and would meow madly in fear of mice and cockroaches. Li Zhengtan had seen this business opportunity, which was why it had expanded its business abroad. This curly spirit fairy cat in front of them was called Mary, and could be considered the representative of Mishio Nation's cats who had crossed the ocean to negotiate. Mary's owner doted on her so much that he had directly chartered 2 immortal boats to send her over. Li Zhengtan and the cats around it were taken aback by its generosity. Although the deal had been negotiated, Li Zhengtan wasn't in a good mood. This was a big deal. The long-term employment agreement it signed with Mary would lead to a large number of cats following Mary back to solve the problems of rats and pests for Mary and her companions. The sadness of parting is unavoidable. Another thing that made Li Zhengtan unhappy was the news currently being broadcast on TV about Father Zhang's hostage situation, as well as the magic treasure design plagiarism incident from 3 years ago. The deal is done. You should be happy, boss. The monk comforted Li Zhengtan on the side. It and the others didn't know what was wrong with their boss. Ever since they had seen the news, they had felt that their boss had fallen into a trance. Li Zhengtan didn't say a word. After wagging its tail at Mary to show its politeness, it took the initiative to climb the trunk of the old locust tree. Standing firmly on a branch, it stared in one direction. The setting sun shone down at an angle, and through the gaps between the trees, the scattered rays fell on the black cat's body, as if it had been draped in a floral dress. Flowers gradually dazzle the eyes. Looking at this scene, the monk couldn't help reciting a poem. After a long while, it came back to its senses and turned to look at their big client, Mary. Miss Mary, I'm really sorry. Our boss has an unpredictable temperament, and sometimes just likes to suddenly become sentimental. Oh, it's fine, I don't mind at all. Only this kind of cat is charming. The curly ahog on Miss Mary's head changed its position, and she gave an intoxicated smile. A large part of the reason why they wanted to do such a big deal with Li Zhengtan's team was that Mary had taken a fancy to Li Zhengtan. This was a cold and aloof cat that had detached itself from the vulgar world. Furthermore, it was still able to maintain its modesty after seeing Mary, which was really too rare. Mary felt that she was already deeply attracted to Li Zhengtan's temperament. For Mary, the sentimental Li Zhengtan was the most handsome cat in her mind. Ah, how great would it be if she could have a monkey with Li Zhengtan in her lifetime? Miss Mary? Miss Mary? The monk called out softly. Seeing that Miss Mary was still obsessed with its boss's looks, it left dejectedly. Beauty was in the eyes of a sentimental cat. It didn't care so much. In contrast, it was Li Zhengtan's abnormal state that worried the monk a little. Although its boss had indeed become more sentimental after the establishment of the cat group, as its trusted subordinate for many years, the monk could still sense whether or not the reflection in its eyes was melancholy. In short, its boss was a little strange today. Was it because of that Magic Treasure Development University news? The monk carefully recalled that 3 years ago, the independent regiment had still been very small, and had basically had no business dealings with Magic Treasure Development University. But if it had to be said, the independent regiment had taken over the Divine Leisure Apartments case, which had been involved in multiple serial murders. Furthermore, the monk clearly remembered that under the leadership of its boss, Li Zhengtan, they had cleaned up the most terrifying cockroach gang leader in Divine Leisure Apartments, the king of cockroaches in all of Songhai City, Cockroach Wenxiang. After this guy had been caught, the monk had stepped on it several times. Who would have thought that this cockroach would be so tenacious? Not only hadn't it been broken, it had even cried out in pleasure. Now this cockroach gang leader was sealed in a strengthened goldfish tank, and there was practically nowhere for it to run. Why was it kept in a goldfish tank, you ask? The reason was very simple. As the king of cockroaches, Cockroach Wenxiang was as big as 2 palms of an adult. It could even fly, and when the steel wings on its back spread out, it had a powerful cutting and destructive power. Why was Cockroach Wenxiang so powerful? The reason was very simple. It was a pure-blooded southern cockroach. Furthermore, as the king of cockroaches, it also had an extremely powerful reproductive ability, and could give birth to thousands of cockroaches in one nest. These thousands of little cockroaches would continue to give birth, and if they continued to develop, they would be able to circle the earth. But fortunately, Cockroach Wenxiang had already been captured by the independent regiment, and the biggest cockroach gang in Songhai City had been eliminated. At the very least, the cockroaches of various families would stop for a while. Seeing that its boss, Li Zhengtan, was in a bad mood, the monk was wondering if it should take out the fish tank in which Cockroach Wenxiang was sealed to relieve its boredom. At that moment, the monk smelled a very familiar scent. Suddenly, the monk raised its head. Immortal meow. Chapter 1045. It could be said that the war between the cockroaches and the cat groups had started before the independent regiment had even been established. This was a global underground dispute, just like the feud between cultivators and the demon race and the devil race, which had lasted for 1,000 years. Everyone in the spirit beast circle knew that cockroaches and cat groups couldn't coexist. For many years, cockroaches had been loathed for all kinds of bad practices. For example, they liked to live in greasy and smelly sewers and didn't care about their own hygiene at all. They used their greasy and germ-covered bodies to contaminate food and spread deadly germs to every corner of the city. How terrifying were the cockroaches in the cultivation world. They had more tenacious vitality than normal cockroaches, and because of their strong reproductive ability, cultivators were defeated when they ran into cockroaches. Many cultivators would even choose to directly move out after discovering a cockroach nest at home. Once a cockroach nest was discovered, it wouldn't take more than a few days for the cockroaches to crawl into every corner of the house. As soon as you open the door, you would see these pitch-black things spreading their steel wings and flying all over the place. Thus, exterminating cockroaches and maintaining the environment in the cultivation world became something that all cultivators had to work together to face. Cockroaches reproduced so quickly that they couldn't be eradicated, so at the very least, they had to suppress their numbers by eliminating them every year. There was now a cultivators' pest exterminator guild in the market responsible for dealing with insect pests in each household. The guild would issue missions in the announcement hall based on the situation of the insect pests in each area. Cultivators who accepted the mission would receive a watch-shaped soul collector to record the number of cockroaches eliminated, and the mission would be considered complete once the target was reached. Once the mission was completed, the cultivator would receive a certificate issued by Huaxiao Alliance as well as a reward of Immortal Fate merit points, which could be directly exchanged for all the cultivation resources they wanted in the guild. This sounded easy, but it wasn't. After several years of working with the Pest Exterminator Guild, Huaxiao Alliance realized that it was difficult to completely suppress the insect pests with the strength of cultivators alone, and that there would be additional losses. The main reason was that such a large area of pests would make many cultivators who went on missions choose to directly use their ultimate skills to kill the pests, and some even use sacred artifacts to kill the cockroaches. In the end, a lot of cockroaches were killed, but with the extinction of the cockroaches, the buildings would also be greatly damaged at the same time. Therefore, this kind of behavior was not worth it. After some consideration, Huaxiao Alliance decided to use some local spirit beasts to help clear out the pests, and the effect of this initiative was surprisingly good. A large part of the reason why the independent regiment was able to develop now was because of Huaxiao Alliance's support. Not only did Li Zhongtan lead the cats to protect the environment, it had also found a way for its cat regiment to survive and develop. Of course, apart from Huaxiao Alliance's support, another very important reason for its current scale was that Li Zhongtan had personally captured Chonggang's boss, Cockroach Wenxiang. Just as Tyrant had said, this was a giant cockroach the size of 2 adult palms when caught. However, in reality, this was not the complete form of Cockroach Wenxiang. In order to catch it, Li Zhongtan had put in a lot of effort. When it had caught Cockroach Wenxiang, this guy had shrunk into a corner and hadn't moved at all. Li Zhongtan had calculated when Cockroach Wenxiang was going to evolve and shed its skin, and had ordered the nearby cats to swarm over and take down the weakened Cockroach Wenxiang in one fell swoop. And then there was Cockroach Wenxiang was now imprisoned in a glass fish tank and couldn't get out at all. After being caught, Li Zhongtan had straightaway executed the water torture on Cockroach Wenxiang. Of course, it was impossible to directly drown Cockroach Wenxiang in water. This guy was the king of cockroaches, and it went without saying how tenacious it was. Even if it was soaked in wine, it would still be alive and well. Thus, Li Zhongtan had hit the nail on the head, and mixed birth control pills into contraceptive water, and soaked Cockroach Wenxiang in it for 7 days and 7 nights, directly sterilizing it. After learning that it was infertile, Cockroach Wenxiang was filled with righteous indignation. You're going too far. Go too far, Harry Ball. The country only allowed for a second child, and you've already given birth to hundreds of millions of children. Aren't you ashamed? Back then, Li Zhongtan's retort had directly dumbfounded Cockroach Wenxiang. Cockroach Wenxiang had tenacious vitality. Considering that it couldn't be directly eliminated, Li Zhongtan had decided to simply raise it and use it to control the emperor. As long as Cockroach Wenxiang was in its hands, the nearby cockroaches would calm down a little. Most importantly, Li Zhongtan could even use Cockroach Wenxiang as bait to draw out an endless stream of nearby cockroaches, and the cat regiment would just have to wait for them. After seeing the news about Magic Treasure Development University, Li Zhongtan's mood inexplicably fluctuated. After feeling melancholy for a while on a branch, it then went over to the goldfish tank and stared at Cockroach Wenxiang with its bright eyes. Cockroach Wenxiang didn't care at all. It knew that Li Zhongtan couldn't kill it, and it was very happy in its heart. You've found a way to kill me? You can't kill me. At best, your realm is only at the peak late foundation establishment stage. I was hit by a soul formation cultivator's palm before, and the other side thought that I had already been smashed into powder. God knows that I'm still alive. I know. Li Zhongtan interrupted Cockroach Wenxiang's torrent of words. The latter only wanted to remind it not to waste its energy, and Li Zhongtan was naturally well aware of this. I'm here to negotiate with you. If you can agree to my request, I can even let you go, Li Zhongtan said to Cockroach Wenxiang while playing the piano. You want to let me go? Cockroach Wenxiang didn't dare believe it. Its mouth parts opened and closed, and the 2 antennae on its head trembled slightly at these words. Provided that you can do what I want, Li Zhengtan said. Tell me. Cockroach Wenxiang's antennae swayed swiftly like two windshield wipers. It had this special habit when it was thinking about a problem. You may have already heard about a serial murder case. I know that you have subordinates in all the places where humans live, so can you find witnesses? Li Zhengtan didn't beat around the bush and asked directly. Humans view us as bedbugs and want to exterminate us. Why should we testify against them? Cockroach Wenxiang laughed. Every living creature has the right to live, and you are no exception. But your mistake was overbreeding. This will cause trouble for other living creatures, which is why you have to be exterminated. If you can find suitable witnesses, perhaps this will be a good opportunity to improve. Li Zhengtan analyzed very seriously. Cockroach Wenxiang thought for a while. Finally, it agreed to the request. I can help you look, but you have to satisfy one of my requests. What is it? The food you've been feeding me these last 2 days is too lousy. I want to improve my diet. Then what do you want to eat? There's a villa in the eastern suburbs whose owner is a crispy noodle snack lover. I want to eat his crispy noodle snacks. I don't need the whole package, just the leftovers will do. Find someone to look for plastic wrappers at a nearby garbage station, even if there's just a little crumb. As Cockroach Wenxiang spoke, it started to drool. When it had still been a small cockroach, it had relied on these bits and pieces every day to grow to its current size. The offspring it gave birth to were also several times larger than normal cockroaches. So why had southern cockroaches been getting bigger and bigger in recent years? All of this started when he had fallen in love with crispy noodle snacks as a child. Chapter 1046. When all was said and done, the biggest reason why Cockroach Wenxiang and Cockroach Gang had been able to rise so quickly was because of Wang Ling's leftover crispy noodle snacks. What kind of divine object was the residue of an immortal king's crispy noodle snack? With just a little bit, a cockroach could grow to the size of a rabbit. Wang Ling knew this was his fault, so he took the initiative to take it. To be honest, if Super Chun and Dopey Gua hadn't mentioned using a cockroach as a witness, Wang Ling probably wouldn't have thought of this. A while ago, when the gang had been stirring up trouble, Wang Ling had wanted to personally deal with it. In the end, Li Zhengtan's independent regiment had stepped forward to control the situation. So Wang Ling hadn't done it himself. Because if he made a move, all the cockroaches in the world would be destroyed in an instant. Since living things existed, there must be a reason for their existence. Even if cockroaches were pests, they were still a part of the food chain. As long as they could be controlled, there was no need to kill them. And now, the reason why he had reappeared here as Immortal Meow, which he hadn't used in a long time, was because he wanted Cockroach Wenxiang to use its actions to atone for its sins. So when Wang Ling showed up here, all the cats were extremely shocked. The monk was so excited that it couldn't speak. It fell to the ground on its butt and clutched its head with its paws, looking like it couldn't believe what had happened. Wang Ling's incarnation of Immortal Meow had always been a legend in the cat world, and every time it appeared, something big was bound to happen. All the cats couldn't help bowing their heads when they saw Wang Ling, and Li Zhengtan was no exception. When Cockroach Wenxiang saw that even Li Zhengtan had knelt down to worship Wang Ling, it was startled on the spot. So you're the boss behind these cats? Cockroach Wenxiang had previously suspected that Li Zhengtan's cat setup alone wouldn't have been able to take down its strong gang. Now that Wang Ling had appeared, it instantly understood. Wang Ling stared at Cockroach Wenxiang and didn't speak. A voice rang out in Cockroach Wenxiang's mind. In order to demonstrate his authority as Immortal Meow, Wang Ling chose to ask Cockroach Wenxiang telepathically to testify in court. In the end, Cockroach Wenxiang's attitude was very firm. You can't change the conditions you promised me before. Otherwise, don't even think about making me appear in court. Anyway, you guys can't beat me to death, and I won't starve to death here. Why don't we compete to see who dies of exhaustion first? This kind of vile attitude made Wang Ling stifle his anger. In the end, this was a cockroach that had grown up eating the dregs of his crispy noodle snacks. Relying on its tenacious vitality, it had actually learned to act like a tyrant. Wang Ling felt that he had to teach Cockroach Wenxiang a lesson. In the next moment, he raised his cat paw and ordered Li Zhengtan to release Cockroach Wenxiang from the fish tank. Cockroach Wenxiang was a little dazed. It didn't know what abilities this white cat that had suddenly appeared in front of it had. But since it was Li Zhengtan's boss, its realm should be higher than Li Zhengtan's, right? Golden core? Nascent soul? Cockroach Wenxiang estimated Wang Ling's realm, and felt that this white cat's level was about right. Although it couldn't tell exactly what breed it was, how high could a spirit beast's realm be? All the spirit beasts in the Pet Trainers Guild, Cockroach Wenxiang, had taken the initiative to provoke it, but none of them had been able to directly kill it. He was a cockroach that had taken a blow from a soul formation stage cultivator. What kind of storm had he not seen? Simply ridiculous. After being released from the goldfish tank, Cockroach Wenxiang breathed free air again. It stared at Wang Ling and crossed its legs, its attitude extremely arrogant. Tell me, how do you want to fight? Let me tell you, I'm an unkillable cockroach. All the cats. Li Zhengtan started to cover its face with its paws. It had never seen anyone court death like this, but this was normal. Wang Ling's incarnation of Immortal Meow was nothing more than a legend in the cat world, and only old cats of Li Zhengtan's generation knew about it. Newborn kittens had to listen to old cat stories to learn about Immortal Meow. And there were even fewer cats who had actually seen Immortal Meow. Thus, Li Zhengtan's independent regiment was more like a cat regiment favored by Wang Ling. The cats in the independent regiment had already seen Wang Ling no less than 3 times, which was why many of them were willing to work for Li Zhengtan. In many cat eyes, Li Zhengtan was a cat favored by a god, and good things might happen if they followed this Commander Li. But as an authentic cockroach, Cockroach Wenxiang indeed couldn't understand this belief in the cat world. It even started to provoke Wang Ling, knowing that Wang Ling's slap wouldn't be able to do anything to it. How about this, let's make a bet. If you slap me unconscious, I'll go and testify. It could be said that this was Wang Ling's first time encountering such an arrogant cockroach. Even the old devil and evil sword god had their souls flash before in the face of its slap. The moment they were slapped, they had no doubt that they would die. But Cockroach Wenxiang actually thought that no matter how bad it was, it would at most be knocked unconscious. This kind of inexplicable self-confidence made Wang Ling unhappy. Of course, he couldn't slap Cockroach Wenxiang to death, because he still had to keep it alive to find a witness. But it was still possible to teach Cockroach Wenxiang a lesson. Wang Ling mustered all his strength, and imbued his cat claws with primordial qi. Dark blue streams of air instantly emerged from his claws and rose into the air like colored steam. Spirit energy materialization. All the cats were horrified. It could only be said that Immortal Meow was in the end Immortal Meow. This was a sign that the spirit power in the body had reached its peak, which proved that the concentration of spirit energy was extremely high, which directly caused the spirit qi to materialize as steam when it was released. This was a sign of an expert, because there were very few cultivators who could materialize spirit energy. Cockroach Wenxiang broke out in a cold sweat. It never thought that this white cat would indeed be different from all the spirit beasts it had seen before. Even a soul formation cultivator couldn't materialize spirit energy, unless this cat was true immortal level? A true immortal level cat? How was this possible? Cockroach Wenxiang was alarmed. If this was really the case, perhaps this Immortal Meow could be recorded in the Cultivation Encyclopedia as a historical record for research. How could there be such a fierce spirit beast in the world? Ready. Wang Ling opened his mouth in the next moment. This was the first time he had spoken as Immortal Meow. Before Cockroach Wenxiang could react, the claw, which had been accumulating power for a while, was already swatting at Cockroach Wenxiang. In that instant, there was a violent earthquake, and the area for hundreds of li around number 59 high school began to shake violently. Just as Wang Ling's paw was about to land on Cockroach Wenxiang's head, it had already fainted from fright. Then, Wang Ling withdrew his hand just in time. This earthquake had happened so suddenly that no one had expected it to happen. Songhai City was on the coast and not between the cracks in the Earth's crust, so earthquakes were very rare. This sudden earthquake had a magnitude of 12.0 and lasted for 2 seconds. Although it didn't cause any damage, Wang Ling's paw was eventually recorded by geologists in the Cultivation Encyclopedia, and human cultivators began to think about protecting the natural environment. Chapter 1047. Wang Ling's slap scared Cockroach Wenxiang so much that it fainted on the spot. At the same time, the cultivators at the Earthquake Monitoring Center in Songhai City were extremely busy. The earthquake had come so suddenly that the magic treasure responsible for monitoring had been destroyed before it could react. Everyone stared at the dashboard in front of them, bewildered. What the hell was this thing? A magnitude 12 earthquake. The director of the monitoring center frowned deeply. Although this sudden earthquake had only lasted for 3 seconds and hadn't caused any actual damage to Songhai City, if an earthquake of this magnitude had happened in any other city, it was likely that those cities would have already been reduced to ruins. Big cities had the highest level of anti-earthquake technology. Basically, all buildings would automatically activate a building stabilization barrier during an earthquake, and everything within the range of the barrier would be in a state of weightlessness. That was to say, if a building collapsed, the rubble and debris that fell from it would float, and people wouldn't be harmed. However, this kind of emergency defense technology was only widespread in big cities like Songhai City and Jinghua City. Because the technology cost was too high, it would take at least 3 years for it to be popularized nationwide. Director, write a research report for President Qi right away. This earthquake was too sudden, and I suspect that the living environment of us cultivators will be greatly affected. Director Zhang of the Research Institute had an ugly expression on his face. In many cases, this kind of sudden earthquake without warning was often a warning of a bigger disaster. In recent years, the cultivation world had been overexploited, and a large number of creatures had been put on the endangered list. Unrestrained extraction was bound to have a huge impact on the ecological environment. Protecting the environment was a topic for all of humanity, and it had to do with the life and death of all cultivators as well as their future development plans in this era of national cultivation. Director Zhang Qiuhua had no choice but to take this matter seriously. In addition, Spirit Qi had been consumed too quickly in recent years. Although it was estimated that it would take several thousand years for Spirit Qi to be completely exhausted at this rate, the problem was already there, and cultivators from all over the world needed to face it together. This was what Director Zhang Qiuhua was doing. He was calling out to everyone with love to make them start to pay attention to environmental protection. It was almost time for the next Global Environmental Protection Cultivators Summit, and Director Zhang Qiuhua decided that this abnormal earthquake with a magnitude 12 in 3 seconds had to be the focus of this summit. Thus, Wang Ling's slap had a positive effect on the awareness of environmental protection among cultivators from all over the world. This was something Wang Ling hadn't expected. Furthermore, even Wang Ling himself couldn't have imagined that his slap in the face would result in additional summer vacation homework. After Wang Ling finished his operation and went home, Teacher Pan made an announcement in the class group chat, asking everyone to write an essay of no less than 3,000 words on the theme of protecting the environment. He regretted it back then. If Wang Ling had known this would happen, he wouldn't have hit him so hard. Of course, this was all in the future. After about half an hour, Cockroach Wenxiang woke up from its coma. It could only be said that a cockroach was indeed a cockroach. Its vitality was indeed very strong. Moreover, this cockroach had grown up eating the leftovers of its crispy noodle snacks. Its vitality was extraordinary and strong. Although Wang Ling's palm didn't directly hit Cockroach Wenxiang, the wind pressure caused by it had already crushed Cockroach Wenxiang into a big pancake in 3 seconds. But even so, Cockroach Wenxiang still managed to survive. After half an hour, Wang Ling watched as its body recovered bit by bit from its squashed state like an inflatable doll. Am I still alive? After coming back to life, Cockroach Wenxiang no longer had the confidence it had at the beginning. It had almost thought that it was going to die. It was very confident in its own vitality, but after that slap just now, it actually saw something like a soul flashing around its mind. In that moment, it even thought of its mother in heavenly state. Back then, his mother had been continuously stepped on by a cultivator more than 3,600 times, and she had died in pain giving birth to him. Losing one's mother at a young age. Was there anything more painful than this in the life of a cockroach? Thus, Cockroach Wenxiang's personality began to harden. Even if it was for its dead mother, Cockroach Wenxiang still decided to live on. It and its siblings hid under its mother's flattened body, and after the cultivator left, they dragged her into the sewers to bury her. It had already sworn that it would live on. As long as it could be eaten, Cockroach Wenxiang wouldn't miss out on it. It vowed to strengthen itself, and in the end, become a cockroach that couldn't be trampled to death no matter what. The light of the soul flashing around Cockroach Wenxiang brought it back to its tragic childhood. It was obvious that Cockroach Wenxiang was a cockroach with a story, but now wasn't the time for Cockroach Wenxiang to recall its past. Given Cockroach Wenxiang's experience, it probably wouldn't be able to recall everything even if it had 10,000 more words. How much did people hate memories? It could be seen from the migrant workers' manga Naruto. At a critical moment in the plot, a memory would be inserted, making people burn with impatience. Thus, continuing to kill memories wouldn't work, as readers would be suspected of exaggerating the number of words. Are you going to help me or not? In the next moment, Wang Ling's question rang out again, and Cockroach Wenxiang shuddered when it heard the voice that rang out in its soul. Wang Ling had only slapped it once, and before it had even landed, Cockroach Wenxiang was already suffering from sequelae. This was a normal question, but in Cockroach Wenxiang's ears, it was like an interrogation from the soul, and it trembled all over. I'll help? Cockroach Wenxiang replied shakily. It knew that at that moment, it already had no other choice. Elsewhere, Audiobook very quickly received the news from Wang Ling. As expected of Shifu, he was actually able to find a new witness under these circumstances. Audiobook was extremely excited. A few minutes ago, Wang Ling had sent him a message saying that he had found a new witness. Then he announced the news to the public. All the police officers present, as well as the school leaders and teachers of Magic Treasure Development University, were taken aback when they heard this. A new witness? A new witness? Headmaster Zhou Dongya didn't dare believe it. The most important witness, Lu Yi, was already dead, and it was very likely that the person who killed Lu Yi was Father Zheng himself. How could there be a new witness in this completely secret room? Mr. Zheng, the police have already found a new witness who can prove your innocence, as well as the truth of the suicide case 3 years ago. So Mr. Zheng, please release all the students here immediately, and the police will definitely give you an explanation. Without further ado, Audiobook began his final negotiations with Father Zheng. The scene was silent for several minutes. The door of the auditorium slowly opened. With tears in his eyes, Father Zheng raised his hands high as he walked out of the auditorium. 3 years ago, those police officers had wronged his son. 3 years later, he still chose to believe that the police officers could prove his son's innocence and reveal the truth to the world. Everyone was baffled no matter how they thought about it. Director Zhua, what on earth is going on? Gao Tian asked. I found a new girl called Little Liang, who said she witnessed Lu Yi's death. Audiobook replied. Who is Miss Little Liang? A cockroach, commonly known as a cockroach. Chapter 1048. I was wrong, I really was wrong. I'm ashamed of what my motherland has done for me, and I sincerely apologize to the students I held hostage in the auditorium. I'll accept however many years I need to be sentenced to. In the interrogation room, Father Zheng confessed to his illegal actions. Although he hadn't caused anyone harm, the hostage-taking had really happened. Furthermore, until a new witness testified in the public trial, Father Zheng couldn't be cleared of being a murderer. At that moment, Gao Tian, Audiobook and Little Silver were all facing Father Zheng in the interrogation room. Little Silver was in charge of taking down Father Zheng's statement. For Little Silver, this was a way of accumulating material. He had been learning to write novels recently, but he wasn't very talented. He had already serialized more than 100,000 words, but he hadn't received a contract offer backstage. Little Silver felt that it was because he hadn't accumulated enough material enough. Thus, helping Gao Tian take down his statement was also a way of accumulating material. Gao Tian's and Ajua's interrogations were different. In order not to steal the credit, the two of them had a clear division of labor. Gao Tian only asked about the hostage-taking, while Ajua asked about the magic treasure plagiarism case. Did you take the auditorium hostage because of the plagiarism case 3 years ago? Gao Tian asked. Yes, I had to find out the truth about it. I wouldn't hesitate, no matter the price, Father Zheng replied, his hands shackled in spirit shackles. This was originally a treatment reserved for the old devil, but considering that Ajua had taken the blame in recent months, and that the realm of the wanted criminals who had been caught had gotten higher and higher, Wang Ling and Wang Ming decided to have the Research Institute mass-produce them. Spirit shackles had already become a standard in prison. If no new witness had appeared, would you still have done this? Gao Tian asked. Father Zheng thought for a while, then said hesitantly, It's hard to say. You should have taken legal action. That's the right way to go, Gao Tian said. But I really didn't have any other choice. I used online complaints and offline petitions, but nothing came of it in the end, because I didn't have any concrete evidence. As for the witnesses I wanted to find, they all died at the hands of others after I arrived. I didn't hurt anyone in this matter. Father Zheng said in full detail, including Lu Yi. At first, I just wanted to use magic to pull him out from behind the screen. In the end, when I passed through the screen, I suddenly realized that Lu Yi was already dead. Gao Tian nodded. He compared Father Zheng's confession with the evidence they had so far. Father Zheng's words were very credible. He could answer most of the questions in great detail. It was similar to the information the police had. It was just that Gao Tian and everyone else in the interrogation room was very concerned about one thing. Father Zheng's realm had increased abnormally. What's going on here? Explain to me how you managed to raise your cultivation so quickly. Don't tell me it's because of a fortuitous encounter. It's not, and you're not the main character. Gao Tian gazed at Father Zheng. It wasn't just Gao Tian who was curious about this matter. All the police officers who had been paying attention to this covert operation were actually very curious. I don't know if you believe me. Speaking of his sudden increase in realm, Father Zheng was a little flustered. He stared into Gao Tian's eyes and replied, It's because of a bag of frozen dumplings. Instant frozen dumplings. As soon as this answer came out, all the police officers inside and outside the interrogation room were shocked. What on earth is going on? Gao Tian asked. It actually happened a few days ago, on September 14th. Faced with questioning, Father Zheng told them everything about how he had become stronger. For so many years, I've been secretly looking for evidence in an attempt to retract my confession. All my living expenses are basically used to pay for the detective's investigation. To save money, I usually go to the cultivation department store to buy things in the return goods section. That day, as usual, I bought a few bags of frozen food. In the end, after I went back and ate one, I suddenly felt my whole body heat up, and my realm advanced by leaps and bounds. I was full of energy, and then, my realm increased just like that. Gao Tian, Little Silver and Ajua all sucked in cold breaths of air when they heard this. That was right. There were no push-ups, no squats, and he didn't insist on not turning on the air conditioner on a hot summer day. It was all because of a bag of frozen dumplings that Father Zheng had advanced. The point was that this matched up with the information the police had. The information in Gao Tian's hands clearly stated that after Father Zheng had been detained, the police had found a bag of frozen dumplings in his rental apartment, which had already been eaten. Furthermore, it was confirmed that the dumplings had been bought from the store's returned goods section and had been sold at a 40% discount. Although it was hard to believe, Gao Tian completely believed Father Zheng's words. Not only did they have the information in their hands to testify, but the polygraph in the interrogation room hadn't detected anything unusual. This was a high-precision polygraph. As long as someone didn't answer the question truthfully, the polygraph would emit a beeping alarm. Of course, this alarm couldn't be played directly. The warning sound would continue to be transmitted through the earpieces hanging in the ears of Gao Tian, Ajua and Little Silver in the interrogation room. Prisoners usually didn't know about the polygraph, which was to prevent prisoners from deliberately preparing answers in advance when they were being interrogated. Thus, Gao Tian and the other police officers were stunned. How could a bag of frozen dumplings be so powerful? F***K. What's the stuffing in these dumplings? Celery, pork, or mushroom? I'll eat them when I get back tonight. The police officers outside the interrogation room couldn't sit still anymore, especially Chief Zhao himself. He had been paying close attention to this case, and after learning the secret of Father Zhang's promotion, he was so excited that he almost jumped up. The reason why he hadn't been promoted wasn't just because his performance wasn't good enough, but also because he was stuck at a bottleneck in his realm. Chief Zhao had been stuck at the nascent soul stage for a very long time, and if he wanted to be transferred to a central core department like Huaxiu Alliance, he had to be at the soul formation stage or above. Gao Tian and Audiobook then whispered to each other, and decided to take Father Zhang for a checkup. If it really was because of those frozen dumplings, as long as they did a detailed test, they should be able to analyze the ingredients of the dumplings from Father Zhang's gastric juices. Alright, that's all for my questioning. Director Zhu was next. At that moment, Gao Tian capped his pen and crossed his fingers. It's over. Audiobook said. That's it. Gao Tian nodded affirmatively. Since the chain of evidence matched up, Gao Tian felt that there was no need to continue the interrogation on the hijacking itself. On the contrary, Gao Tian was more interested in the reopening of the case 3 years ago. But he wasn't the person in charge of it, so Gao Tian could only hand it over to Audiobook. First of all, I want to know more about student Zheng Jingshuan's family situation. May I ask, why did you divorce student Zheng Jingshuan's mother, Madame He Xiulan? Audiobook's first question was a little personal, but it was still very necessary. His family environment was also a major reason why student Zheng chose to commit suicide in the end. Because Alan and I didn't get along, so we divorced, Father Zheng replied. As soon as he said that, Audiobook and the others instantly heard the lie detector alarm in their headsets. Beep 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 beep. Father Zheng, please answer your question truthfully. Audiobook's gaze turned sharp. Father Zheng panicked a little. Because Alan found out that I cheated. Beep 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 beep. Because I realized that I like men. Beep 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 beep. Father Zheng was almost in tears. F***K. Because our married life isn't happy, of course, it's mainly because of me. Is that okay? This time, the alarm didn't go off again. Tianjin. Chapter 1049. Audiobook wasn't interested in prying into other people's affairs. He had thought that Father Zheng was hiding the truth about the case. He hadn't expected Father Zheng to say something so shocking as soon as he opened his mouth, stupefying all the police officers at the police station. After understanding the situation, Audiobook realized that student Zheng Jingshuan's suicide was actually a tragedy that had combined many factors. Student Zheng's mother, Madame He Xiulan, was a relatively strong person, and it was because of her strength that Zheng Jingxian had started to fear women, so he could only constantly use his grades to boost his morale. Thus, after Audiobook and Gao Tian looked into student Zheng's information, they found that his academic record was extraordinarily good. He was first in his grade in almost all the exams, and had won many competitions. It wasn't just the magic treasure design competition. Even the spirit sword driving competition, the elixir refining competition, and so on. Student Zheng had won first place with very outstanding results, standing out from his peers. Student Zheng became the focal point of the crowd. He enjoyed the feeling of being in the limelight, and it was precisely because of this habit that student Zheng felt a kind of psychological pleasure. But all of this had happened too quickly. Student Zheng had been framed for plagiarism. It was his own design that had been stolen and then framed against him. The public opinion online put immense pressure on student Zheng, and it was at that time that Zheng Tianqiang and He Xiulan agreed to a divorce, which directly led to this tragedy. Falling from the peak of his life to the bottom in one fell swoop, Zheng Jingxian completely lost himself. Perhaps in the last moment before he committed suicide, he instinctively found his last straw of hope, Lin Shiyao. He called Lin Shiyao to him, and using the excuse that he didn't want to be a burden on Lin Shiyao, he wrote something like a will. In order not to be a burden on Angel Capital, he drew a clear line between himself and Lin Shiyao, and then chose to commit suicide. After Zheng Jingshuan's death, Lin Shiyao sank into deep self-blame. She hated herself for being cowardly, for not pulling Zheng Jingxian out at the most critical moment, and instead started to doubt her boyfriend's behavior as the rumor spread. She also hated herself for being foolish, for actually not pulling Zheng Jingxian back to the other side at the last moment. She hated herself the most, but it was too late to say anything now. The dead couldn't be brought back to life. Zheng Jingshuan's death had been buried for 3 whole years along with the magic treasure plagiarism case from 3 years ago. As Father Zheng said, he had tried many normal channels to lodge a complaint, but the mastermind pulling the strings behind the scenes had left him powerless to breathe. Helpless, Father Zheng finally chose this path that seemed to be out of desperation. September 19th, the 36th day of the summer vacation. As for Father Zheng's hostage kidnapping case, and the magic treasure plagiarism case from 3 years ago, the Cultivation Police Bureau and the General Administration of 100 schools respectively filed public prosecutions in court. The Police Bureau requested that the hostage kidnapping case be charged, while the General Administration of 100 schools requested that the magic treasure plagiarism case be retried. This was a public trial, and all the people in the country, including many foreign netizens, were paying attention to this incident online. There were no empty seats in the auditorium. Apart from the media reporters, Zhou Dongya, the headmaster of Magic Treasure Development University, as well as other people involved in the plagiarism case from 3 years ago who were still alive, had been summoned to court by the police bureau. When Gao Tian brought Father Zheng to the defendant's seat in the courtroom with spirit shackles on his hands, he saw a familiar person. Student Fu Fuxing, who had accused Zheng Jingxian of plagiarism back then, was also sitting here. He was sitting in the second defendant's seat, and was probably going to appear in court as a defendant in the plagiarism case. At the same time, student Fu Fuxing was probably the person who knew the most about the case from 3 years ago. But those who were at the core of the case were basically all dead. Father Zheng had resented Fu Fuxing before, but looking at it now, he thought that maybe Fu Fuxing really didn't know anything, and was just a pitiful person who had been used. Otherwise, why would Fu Fuxing be here alive? Songhai Intermediate Cultivation Court. The judge in charge of the trial this time was called Liang Xian, a middle-aged man with swept-back hair and a righteous expression. Since this case wasn't just about the hostage situation, there was also the possibility of overturning the verdict on the case from 3 years ago. Thus, the presiding judge, the judges, the jurors and the court clerk in charge of the case from 3 years ago had all voluntarily recused themselves to ensure that the case was fair and just. All rise. The court is now in session. There wasn't the slightest ripple on Liang Xian's face. He had been directly assigned by his superiors to take over this case. Because the 2 cases were being tried together, plus Father Zheng's actions to garner attention before the trial, this case had garnered a lot of attention in society. Liang Xian was well aware of the seriousness of the matter. The presiding judge and all the judges were there to crack down on those who broke the law and return the innocence of the innocent. The whole place was silent. After Chief Judge Liang took his seat, he hit the table with a crisp hammer, and the trial officially began. Defendant Zheng Tianxiang on September 18, 4396, you hijacked a small auditorium at Songhai Magic Treasure Development University, and a total of 53 people were taken hostage. Although you didn't injure the hostages, you damaged the auditorium and other public facilities, and are guilty of hostage-taking. You are now being prosecuted for destroying public facilities and hostage-taking. Do you have any objections to the prosecution's conclusion? Asked Chief Judge Liang. No objections, replied Father Zheng from the defendant's stand. Chief Judge Liang nodded, then turned his gaze to the second defendant's stand. Summon the second defendant, Fu Fuxing. When his name was called, Fu Fuxing's face gradually showed some nervousness. He was well aware of the impact this plagiarism case would have on his life. Even if he was one of Lu Yi's pawns, it was true that Lu Yi had stolen Zheng Jingshuan's magic treasure design from high school and given it to Fu Fuxing to compete in the competition. Furthermore, Fu Fuxing had also used that design, and after the incident, he had even reprimanded Zheng Jingxian for plagiarism. Now that the case had been dug up again, he would definitely be accused of fraud. Most importantly, Raven Studio would face a huge blow. At the time, Fu Fuxing didn't know that the design he had used hadn't come from Lu Yi. He had thought that Lu Yi was a talented person. He hadn't expected this guy to actually be a saint thief. Chief Judge Liang hit the gavel. Fu Fuxing, please guarantee the veracity of what you say next. If you are suspected of fraud, you can be convicted of perjury in court. Chief Judge, I swear that everything I say is true, Fu Fuxing said after taking a deep breath. May I ask if the design for the Magic Treasure Design Competition 3 years ago was your original work? Asked Chief Judge Liang. Fu Fuxing thought for a bit, then raised his head and said resolutely, yes. There was an uproar at his words. Ajua, Little Silver and Gao Tian hadn't expected Fu Fuxing to actually choose to retract his statement at that moment. Tianjin, you're tuning in to the Echoes of the Heart YouTube channel. Don't forget to subscribe and join us on this journey to catch the most captivating stories.